Hello, welcome again to another grumpy guide. Probably not so grumpy this time, but we'll try and put some grumpiness in there where we can.
I can kind of extend my grumpiness.
Definitely. So we've basically been looking at some 2014 movie trailers. One of which is on the cusp of 2014. 47 Ronin is one of them, but it's essentially 2014. We've watched quite a few trailers, so we're just going to run through the ones that we've watched and then we'll give our opinions. So this is the list that we've got. So we've got 47 Ronin start off with, we've got 300 Rise of an Empire, Captain America Winter Soldier, Grudge Match, Hercules, Homefront, I, Frankenstein, Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, Lone Survivor, Need for Speed, Non-Stop, Pompeii, RoboCop, the 2014 version we've already covered in our first podcast, so we won't say an awful lot. We'll just glancingly talk very briefly about it and then move on. Seventh Son, Seventh Son, X-Men Days of Future Past, and Godzilla. So we watched all of those, and we're going to be giving our opinion on them. So the first one is 47 Ronin, and we're going to be using IMDb for the storylines, whether they've been written by professionals or by users. But for 47 Ronin, we've got, while hunting in the forest, Lord Asano of Eiko and his samurai find a young half-breed and take him with them to live in the castle. Several years later, Lord Asano holds a tournament to welcome the shogun to Eiko. The night after the tournament, Lord Asano is bewitched into hunting Lord Kira of Nagato and is punished into committing seppuku by the shogun. Realising that it was a Lord Kira's evil plot, the samurais and the half-breed set out for revenge against the shogun's order. So 47 Ronin, starring, I guess the lead in this one is Keanu Reeves,
Who has just got called a half-breed, which I'd imagine is not the worst thing he's ever been called.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever the half-breed means, presumably he's half Caucasian, half Japanese, or maybe he's half something else.
Probably
and half
sorcerer,
Japanese.
judging by the trailer. I mean,
yeah, could be. What are your thoughts then?
my thoughts, honestly, I saw the trailer. I did honestly think it looked a little cool to begin with. You know, it's very stylised. If I remember correctly, I think Keanu Reeves is he the director of this one? I think he is.
But let's have a look. We've got IMDb up. He could well be. If he's directed it, then I think he looks like he's done a reasonably good job. So have a look.
No, it's somebody else.
Carl Rinch or whatever his name is.
I know he's moving into directing. I just can't remember the film. I thought it was this one. Never mind. But you know, it's very stylised. It's trying to kind of relaunch his career, I would say, because let's face it stalled, didn't it, after The Matrix, and he's obviously going back.
Well, I don't know. He's done reasonably well with Day the Earth Stood Still. He was in that recently.
Yeah,
and
but even that wasn't the greatest film ever made.
No, it wasn't.
You know, it was playing basically the usual. What's the way I can put this? The wooden Keanu Reeves. You know, it looks like he basically got cut out of a forest the day before and said, "Here, be an actor."
Yeah, he's pretty much the same in everything that he stars in, isn't he?
Pretty much. I mean, the only time I've ever really seen him put any kind of spin as an actor really is Bill and Ted, where he actually finally put something into it. It's like, yeah, dude. You know?
That's probably, and Point Break, he was in that, but he was pretty much like was he Ted in that? Wasn't he?
He was Ted, and he was basically playing the same character.
Yeah.
And this time they unleashed him with a gun.
Yeah.
You know, and I had Patrick Swayze, who looked adoringly into his eyes. And the only thing I expected at some point during that film is that he was going to get bummed by ghosts. It was obviously going to happen at some point.
Bless him. You know? Yeah, so he is pretty much the same in everything, even some of the more straight-laced parts that he's been in when he was in Dangerous Liaisons.
Yes,
as a young man, he was essentially Ted in that.
And not to mention, he still owns probably the worst accent to make a British person, other than Dick Van Dyke, you know, with Maury Poppins.
Yeah.
You know. Well, it's obvious Dracula. You know, it was.
He was in that as well, wasn't he?
Terrible. You know, considering I'm a big fan of that book, really, and he no, I can't go into it. We're not going to go into that. I will be here for hours just talking.
But in terms of Keanu Reeves, the actor, in the context of this film, so far, from the trailer, you can only extrapolate certain things from seeing maybe 30 seconds of acting, but it looks reasonable. I don't know whether or not he's going to be much different, but
I generally think the one really good thing about Keanu Reeves is a very physical actor, and he carries it extremely, extremely well. I mean, if you're watching The Matrix, apart from the times when they obviously CGI'd his fights,
yeah.
But other than that, he is very, very good as a physical actor.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So really, I actually think I'd fancy this. It wouldn't be a cinema sort of thing for me. It'd be like a Saturday night, watching it on Sky or Netflix.
Yeah, kind of a box office type thing, as opposed to going to the cinema to
kind
see
of
it.
a Netflix type rental, I would imagine. Something I'm not really rushing to see, but it does look okay.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of, is it called the 13th Warrior or something?
Antonio Banderas?
Yeah, from years ago. It's got sort of a sense of that in it. It's obviously, I mean, there's been 47 Ronin films previous to this one. I think there was like something in the 1990s, which is in itself then based on a 1960s film.
And it goes further back than that.
or something.
Yeah,
it's
I
called.
think they've made this film many, many, many times.
Oh, it's a Japanese legend, but I'm not so sure about the fantasy element in this, because it kind of. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, YouTube users, but I think that the story of the 47 Ronin is more like your standard Akira Kurosawa type Seven Samurai feudal Japan type story, as opposed to an overtly fantasy heavy with supernatural characters. They may have done that more for the audience this time.
I think so. I think it's more likely to sell it to an American audience. And especially with the big fantasy films out like The Hobbit and Catching Fire and all those type of things, big fantasy elements. They obviously needed something to jumpstart it to get the imagination going. Otherwise, it's just another film with swords.
I quite like the idea, though. I mean, it kind of taps into the popularity of samurais. You've got The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. That's still quite a popular.
I love that
popular film. Great
really
film.
do.
It's kind of like Braveheart or Dances with Wolves for the Japanese kind of setting. But it's I think it's still resonant. I still think it's quite a relevant story as well. It's all about honour. And revenge, which is they're popular topics for films.
So we're also nodding towards Gladiator then, really, aren't we?
Yeah, I think as we move forward with some of the other films on the list, I think I've got some views on Gladiator type issues there. I don't know about the Gladiator element in this, but I think it certainly looks like it's going to be heavy on the action, probably in the same kind of genre as like the Mummy films, lots of different mythical beasts being fought. I don't know, but with the additional samurai sort of element, there are going to be some cool sword fights, I think. So I feel quite excited by that one. I quite like films like that.
Like I said, Netflix for me.
Yeah, me too. I think it would be a DVD purchase, or it would be a box office type thing on a Saturday night when my wife's busy doing something else and I've got pizza on the table and I'm just there watching people getting their arms and legs chopped off and stuff.
And what else is better to do on a Saturday night?
Absolutely, definitely. So, do we have any more to say about this, or are we just going to move ahead and give it a rating out of 10?
I mean, the rating from the trailer, I would, like I said, it's kind of mediocre for me. It looks exciting, still a Saturday night type thing. I'm going to give it a 5, I think.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I mean, we can see here that IMDb, at the moment, IMDb have given it a rating of 6.7 out of 10. That's from like 15,500 users. So it looks like it's going to be a reasonable film. IMDb, I've found generally, if the rating is reasonably indicative of the quality of the film. So I think, unless we've got some total idiots who've been looking at the trailer and rating it accordingly, I think that it's going to be a reasonably good film. That rating, I think, will potentially go up a little bit. It might reach the 7s.
It's a real shame too, because the film's already been released. As you're listening to this, it's already out in cinemas.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and it got released in America, I think. What was it? About a month ago. And unfortunately, it just flopped on its arse.
Really?
Nobody went to see it. So,
do you think it's because it's the pre-Christmas and there's not that much kind of interest
I'm
around
not
that sort of
sure.
time?
I think it could be more along the lines that Keanu Reeves is in a box office draw like he was with The Matrix. I mean, the first one was a surprise hit with The Matrix. The second one, it did big because of that first one, and then obviously it became part of that trilogy, and the next one was getting released, I don't know, what was it, 6 weeks later? 6 months later? Everybody's going to go and see it because you've invested now in that story. So that's why that was so big. But after that, his movies declined quite quickly.
Yeah.
So I think it's more or less probably down to the fact Keanu Reeves isn't the draw anymore.
So maybe with this film then, it's box office flop, but it could actually turn out to be a rental or purchase hit.
Exactly. It kind of like Dread.
Yeah.
You know,
Dread
absolutely. Really didn't find its audience until it came onto DVD and Blu-ray, which is a real shame because that film was absolutely fantastic.
It is a fucking awesome film. Yeah, definitely. So we reckon around about the sort of 5 or 6, which is fairly close to what other people have rated it as. That may go up or down. We're not sure. So that's 47 Ronin. So it looks like it's a reasonably good film. The next thing, this is an interesting one actually. I would be quite interesting to hear what you think to this one. 300 Rise of an Empire. What did you reckon? We've seen the trailer. What do we think?
My honest opinion?
Yeah.
It feels like a cash-in on a really good film. The first one for me was fantastic, but the reason I liked that film so much was Gerard Butler as Leon Deus.
Yeah.
And he really owned that film himself, by dropping in extremely brilliant lines, like we just want to share our culture with you. Well, if you haven't noticed, I've been sharing our culture with you all morning.
Yeah,
that kind of line.
That's great. That bit where he's chomping on the apple as well, saying something about we can be reasonable or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
and he's got
dead
hundreds and thousands of bodies stacked behind him. It's just absolutely fantastic.
He's totally nonchalant about the destruction and death that surrounds him. So, but okay, so let's do the storyline, and then we'll talk in a bit more detail about the film itself, what we think of the visuals, etc. So, after its victory over Leonidas' 300th Persian army under the command of Xerxes marches towards the major Greek city-states. The democratic city of Athens, first on the path of Xerxes' army, bases its strength on its fleet led by Admiral Themistocles. Themistocles is forced to an unwilling alliance with the traditional rival of Athens, oligarchic Sparta, whose might lies with its superior infantry troops, but Xerxes still reigns supreme in numbers over sea and land. Now, my thoughts, without going into the detail of the storyline at the moment, looking at the visuals of the trailer, I think they've done a good job at recreating the visual style of the original.
They're going to. You mean it's the same people that came back?
Yeah.
You've got Frank Miller back, the very brilliant Frank Miller.
Yeah, that style is it's synonymous with him, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I think he did. What did he do? Sin City as well, didn't he?
He did do Sin City.
That look is very stylised.
Also wrote probably the greatest, graphic novel ever, The Dark Knight Returns, which I don't know if you've read that, James. If you get the chance, get round to doing it, I'll lend it you, and you will fall in love with it.
The artwork amazing, is it?
It's not just the artwork; it's the storyline behind it, which I think is very much influencing the new Batman and Superman that's going to be released soon. Okay. So
actually, we should have reviewed that one. We might tag that on the end.
I've got quite a bit to say about that.
Right, we could do with tagging that Batman v Superman film. In fact, the trailer I think is on YouTube. So
there won't be a trailer just yet because it's not released.
Oh, maybe some fan made.
Yeah, it'll be a fan made one. But we'll definitely come on to that at some point.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so visually, I think it's done well. I quite like the clear link between the first film and this one, in the sense that you've got a shot in the trailer where you've got Xerxes with his axe. He's going to behead Leonidas when he's surrounded by his 300 as they're dead once they've had that battle of Thermopylae, I think it is. But what confuses me slightly, I mean, I think the trailer's great. I'd love to see that film. I think it's a great looking film. For me, that's a cinema film.
Right.
But what gets me with the storyline description, and again, this has potentially been written by an IMDb user as opposed to IMDb themselves or by the producers of the film, but it sounds like Xerxes' Persian army is advancing into Greece, and there is obviously some more battle lines that are going to be drawn and some more epic battles. It sounds like more sort of navy based battles as well. What I'm finding slightly confusing is that at the end of 300, you have the Greeks and the Spartans. Well, you've got the Spartans leading the Greeks, basically, and I'm not sure what his name is. He's a guy that's Australian or New Zealander, and he's in Lord of the Rings, isn't he?
I know who you're talking about.
Faramir he plays, I think.
Faramir, yeah.
And you've got him saying, more than good odds for any Greek or something, and then he says for Leonidas and the 300 and to victory, and then they run towards the camera, and then that's it, and it's kind of like it shows you ultimately that the 300's death led to a joining of Greeks and Spartans in their resistance to the Persian army.
It's a great little story though, isn't it?
It's a fantastic story, but this seems to kind of
detract from it.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not this is kind of like rewinding a little bit. So at the end of the first 300 film, you see ultimately what the end is of everything, the end story, and this is in between Leonidas' death and that massive battle.
I'm not so sure.
I don't know, it's just the way that it's written sounds to me like the Persians are still advancing, yet at the end of 300 they were halted by the Spartans and Greek army at the end.
I don't know, I think it might be the continuing. I mean, you do get that shot of the wonderful Lena Headey, who basically says we're going to war after what happened, in a sense, in the trailer, which is obviously she's learned that her husband is dead.
Yeah.
So I would say not. So I would say
she knew he was dead at the end of the first 300 film because they brought him back on his shield, didn't they?
Exactly. So that tells me that that's already going, and that's the next step now. That they've suddenly said, you know what? Fuck you. We're coming for you now, Xerxes. Whereas before it was kind of like we're a very small group who's going to try and do our best. But now it's like, fuck you. We're coming. You bastard.
Yeah, I'm not convinced though, because unless this is difficult to tell with trailers, but unless they're using flashbacks as part of that trailer, they've added a new scene with Xerxes and Leonidas is dead with his 300. So this kind of shows to me that it's kind of like in between, because in 300 Leonidas' body is taken home, and she's there. In the trailer it shows her standing by a funeral pyre amongst, next to a pile of ashes, and I'm presuming that that's Leonidas' body that's been cremated, that's been burnt on the funeral pyre. So to me I'm guessing, but I think this film is going to take place in terms of timing in between 300 and the end of 300.
Oh, so what you're saying is all this is going on in the background. So she was talking about getting more people to go, weren't she?
After the death, so you've got battle with Xerxes with the 300. 300 all get slaughtered, and then Xerxes decides to then advance. As he's advancing, Lena Headey has his body come back, cremates it, gathers the people together and says, now we've got to go to war. Then this kicks in, and after all of that, and they've kicked the shit out of them in the navy and destroyed the Persian army, or close to destroying it, then it goes back to the end of 300 with Faramir, for want of a better name, because I can't remember his proper name in the film, fighting against the Persian army at the end and destroying them and saving all of Greece. But that's a guess from a 30-second
you might be right, to be fair.
Trailer. I mean, who knows? It's difficult to tell. But to me, it's a cinema film. I'd happily watch that at the cinema. I'm not sure about the guy with his blue cape. I suspect they've done that to give it a different visual theme, because obviously you've got the red cape in 300 with Leonidas, so they've obviously given him a blue one to show you very clearly that this isn't Leonidas. Maybe he's not a Spartan, maybe he's a Greek.
That's what my thought was. I don't think he's a Spartan.
Possibly a Greek. I don't know. Rise of an Empire indicates to me that it's not the Persian Empire, it's the Greek Empire, and the beginning of democracy, and when they became a great nation.
So maybe he is their champion then, because Leonidas was the champion of the Spartans, and he must be their king. And I recognise him. He stars in a series that Sky do here in England called Strike Back.
Oh, okay.
Which is a really, really good series.
Is this David Wenham, is it, or something?
Yes.
Oh no, it's not. Is it?
That's
Faramir. That's Dilius.
That's Faramir. That's the guy you're talking about. No, his name is Sullivan Stapleton.
Oh, Sullivan Stapleton. Themistocles. Themistocles. Although I know quite a bit about Greek mythology, I've never heard of Themistocles. But I could be wrong. Maybe Themistocles is a famous character. You know, like you've got Jason and Hercules, which we'll move on to, but maybe Themistocles is a proper historical character that did in fact rise to become a king of Greece or something. I don't know. But have we got a rating? I don't even know if we've got a rating on IMDb yet. Doesn't look like we have. Oh, voting begins after release. So there's no rating. Personally, from looking at it, I'm going to give it 6.5 to 7 because I think it looks pretty cool.
I'm going to agree with that because I love the first one so much, and I did absolutely adore the first one.
Oh, the first one was awesome, wasn't it?
It was. Zack Snyder did such a brilliant job with it.
What I loved about the first one is the fact that you'd got these amazing battles, but what I really loved about it was that it did this kind of almost video game style. It would show you loads of fast action, then it would slam and stop it, and then it would kick in with slow motion stuff to show you some of the cool action, and then it would fast wind and go back to normal speed and stuff. It was the bit with his shield when he's smacking them and they're wading their way through to push them to the end of the rocks. I thought that was an amazing
the brilliance of Zack Snyder, that is. The brilliance of Zack Snyder, who in my opinion is probably the next generation of Michael Bay. You know, he is one of the most visually stunning directors out there, which is why I loved him in Man of Steel, because he was perfect for it.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head with the Michael Bay thing. The style is very similar.
Absolutely.
Lots of quick cuts, but exciting quick cuts, not bewildering quick cuts, but quick cuts that actually keep you right in the thick of the action. And make you feel like you're driving forward rather than this kind of like...
And while I actually have a voice on the internet in a minute, I want to say, stop knocking Michael Bay. The guy's fantastic.
Yeah.
He doesn't proclaim himself to be the greatest director on the planet. He doesn't think he's Steven Spielberg. But if you can sit there and tell me...
Thankfully not, because Steven Spielberg's, to be honest, let himself go quite a lot in recent years.
Well, I would still myself consider him to be one of the greatest directors that's ever been produced. But when it gets back to Michael Bay, stop knocking him. Stop knocking him. This guy is probably one of the best visually brilliant directors out there.
Yeah.
If you can sit there and tell me that you don't think his films are fucking cool by the look of them, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah,
you really don't. Absolutely
right.
not. And you can't sit there and tell me, all of you who are listening to this right now, and tell me you didn't enjoy Bad Boys, or the first time you saw Optimus Prime show up in Transformers.
Yeah.
No fucking way. You're talking out your arse.
Don't piss on Transformers for being shit because it's got Shia LaBeouf in it, or that Megan Fox bint, but look at the visual style of films. Films are all about visuals. Bruce Lee himself said that action movies are about action. They're not about acting. If you want acting, you go for an art house film where the pace is slower. Action is where it's at for action flicks. Like with a war, and you get generals in, you get generals who are warriors. You don't get generals who are poets.
Absolutely.
So for an action movie, you have an action director. And Michael Bay and Zack Snyder, those sorts of guys are action directors. They know exactly what they're doing. They're like Leonardo da Vinci when it comes to painting a picture with visual.
And that's exactly where I'm getting at. And and it just pisses me off the amount of shit the guy actually gets.
Yeah.
And he doesn't fucking deserve it.
No, definitely not. When the smoke's cleared, the dust has settled in a few decades, when people die and suddenly shit films start to be made again, and people look back at a back catalogue of these long gone directors, that's when they realise how great these people were.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, it always happens. There's a lot of followers when it comes to the internet. Just because one guy who's probably some dumbass fucking critic who just follows the trend, he goes, oh, this isn't very good. So everyone jumps on with him. Oh, this isn't very good. This is awful. What a load of shit. You're talking out your arse. I tell you what, I'll wipe my fucking arses all over your face. I hate it. It annoys me.
Yeah, it is annoying. It's this kind of like mob-handed approach to critique rather than actually saying, yeah, this looks amazing, but I'm not really particularly happy about the acting, or I don't particularly like the casting or the music or whatever. But don't just jump on the bandwagon and slag a film, especially a film that you haven't even fucking seen yet.
Yes, absolutely.
Admittedly, we ripped into RoboCop.
Yes,
but that's because it fucking deserved it.
Yeah, but it was only adoringly.
That's right. We loved it. We loved it. Really, we love it. Really, we just love to fucking stamp on it because it's shit. So, So personally, 300 Rise of an Empire, for me, it's a thumbs up. I'm going to give it, like I said, 5 or 6, probably 6, maybe even 7 out of 10 as a rating.
I'm kind of in the middle with this one. The thing about doing sequels like this is it often doesn't live up to the original. And I know I shouldn't look at it like that.
No, I think you're right. I think another thing as well is that musical styles as well, if you look at soundtracks, they're great. I mean, if we take Gladiator, for example. When Gladiator first came out, not going to go into loads of detail, but when Gladiator came out, Hans Zimmer, amazing soundtrack. And obviously there's an extended version as well, so there's reams and reams of music. And it's an awesome soundtrack. But the problem is, as soon as you have an iconic soundtrack like that then becomes synonymous with an iconic movie, which it is, you then get so many bandwagon off the back of it. And it tends to be that you then hear very similar musical tracks and you think, oh, here we go. So from an audio perspective, it becomes almost a rip-off, like a copy. And you think, oh, not that same cliche with the wailing woman and the bazookies and all this sort of thing, and the duduks and all these sort of cliched things now. But somebody had to do it for the first time, and Hans Zimmer did with Gladiator. The same, I think, that's my virus software making that weird noise, folks. That 300 soundtrack is very similar to Gladiator. It has this kind of semi-Middle Eastern, which of course Greece, even though a European country, is still on the cusp of this kind of Mediterranean and Southeast European / Turkish, all that kind of area. So it has that sort of sound to it. Personally, from looking at the trailer, I think 300 Rise of the Empire might fall down there, because I think they're probably going to use a similar soundtrack.
Unless they're just using stock music from the original movie.
If they use the same themes from the original film, personally I'd be happier than if they tried to regurgitate some bastardised version of a reworking of another sort of
I would
track.
say they probably will use the same soundtrack, at least elements of it anyway.
Because that'd be cool, because you could play them back to back and get that sort of continuity.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think they'll probably just use the same sort of soundtrack. It wouldn't surprise me anyway, because it's got to have, in a sense, it's a continuing of that story. So I'd be very, very surprised if they didn't, at least.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think you're right. I would be happy if they use the same soundtrack. So that's 300 Rise of an Empire covered, so it looks like it's a promising film. Next one, you see, is Captain America Winter Soldier, or The Winter Soldier. I'm not sure exactly if it's that one or not. Same guy that we talked about off record. We talked about that this guy was the actor that's playing Captain America, was in Fantastic Four, I think, and various other films. Moving on to Captain America in terms of the character, notwithstanding this movie trailer, I've never been that bothered about Captain America. I've always thought it was a bit of a shit superhero.
I think it's because he's too much of a Boy Scout, and you prefer to have a hero that's got a bit more of a darker side to it.
I kind of like the idea of, and I'm going to bring up IMDb, folks. You hear me clicking in a minute, because I'm just going to call up Captain America Winter Soldier's synopsis so we can go through that. But getting back to the character of Captain America, I quite like the notion of some kind of escapee, kind of genetically engineered superhero. I kind of like that sort of superhero type weapon that was developed by the American army in the 1940s or whatever, and then he's frozen for whatever reason or whatever, and then he brought back in modern times. I quite like that. But he's, like you said, he's too much of a Boy Scout. He's too good. And, this Winter Soldier may bring him down a bit, may make it a bit darker. I hope so. But I've never found him that appealing. And I don't know how well, you may know, you probably will know better than me, but I don't know how well it did box office wise with the first film.
The first one, it wasn't amazingly big. I mean, it's nowhere near into the same sort of numbers as like Iron Man
or Batman or whatever.
Yeah, or anything like that. But it certainly is beginning to establish the character.
Do you think they're doing this because it's part of a longer game plan? Like with Thor, it's basically to get him into the Avengers or whatever it is, or Justice League or whatever it is.
If you look at Marvel's track record, some of their biggest heroes was originally like Captain America before they developed people like Spider-Man and all those other characters and things like that. But, he's certainly coming into his own. I mean, I remember when I watched the first film, and I did come out of it and go, meh, not exactly brilliant. I didn't think it was that good. They didn't really explore Captain America as it should have been. It's
a very bog standard,
it was
formulaic
so.
superhero
I don't know if that was
film,
down
wasn't
to
it?
like Joe Johnson or it's just how he saw Captain America. I mean, in my opinion, Captain America is like he should be like fucking Bruce Lee when he's out there. He can do backflips and all this sort of shit.
Yeah.
And in the first film, he didn't really do any of that, and I was let down by that because I was expecting this big spectacle of the character, and it just wasn't delivered.
That film was more setting the scene. The first film was all about establishing the character.
See, the thing about those films back then, it was obviously about part of a bigger game plan to get to the Avengers. It's what Marvel Studios called Phase 1.
Right.
So, they released Iron Man, which, in my opinion, they were just shocked at how big it was. Because if you think of Iron Man, back then, before that film came out, and the absolutely fantastic Robert Downey Jr. got in that role, I don't think anybody really gave a shit. Apart from like the really big Iron Man comic book fans who thought this looks amazing.
It was pretty niche as a superhero. Iron Man wasn't really seen as being anything spectacular.
And as I've said before, I honestly think the success of that film was down to the casting of Robert Downey Jr.
Definitely.
That's what made it work.
Definitely. I mean, I've never been a fan of Iron Man. Wasn't that enamoured with the film, if I'm being perfectly honest. But and I was aware that Iron Man existed as a superhero, and I was aware that Thor existed as a superhero. But who the fuck played Thor? I mean, Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man, made Iron Man massive. Thor hasn't done as well.
It didn't do particularly that well, the first one, but the second one certainly did. Yeah, right. And I think that's down to the brilliance of the actor who is playing.
What was it called? Dark Worlds or something?
Dark World, yeah. Chris Hemsworth has taken that role, and it's not just the, if you think of how they normally portray Thor in, like, I don't know, even if you've seen Saturday morning cartoons.
I hated the first Thor film though.
I liked
Thought it was really boring.
I didn't like the first 10 minutes. I sat in the cinema. My movie buddy is my brother. We go and watch films all the time. And I was sitting there next to him, and I leaned over to him after the first 10 minutes, and I went, "This is fucking shit."
Yeah.
And I literally said that out loud, because this is fucking shit. And it wasn't until he went into battle the first time in that film, and he goes to the ice giant's planet, or whatever they're called, the Odenheim, I think it was called in the film, and he goes there and he shows the character off a bit more, in the fight and stuff like that, and I began to settle into the film. And then when he started showing this absolutely brilliant piece of acting from Hemsworth, where he starts showing his more vulnerable side of the character. It's not just Odin's hammer, which is what hammer, which is what he does in the comics and stuff like that. Once they started delving into that, I settled, and I thought, actually,
well, the comics are very stylised, Viking-esque sort of character. He's supposed to be just, he's supposed to just go around clobbering stuff with a hammer.
Pretty much, and they're actually my ancestors, so I find that quite. My ancestors are actually Vikings. We're from that area, so to me, fantastic. I loved it. But when it came to the first film, I was a bit like that about it, and then I warmed to it, and the more I watched it, I actually really liked it. But I think that's probably more down to the fact Chris Hemsworth in the part, and I think this for most films, it's down to the actor you put into that lead role. It's the lead role that makes it work. Yeah. And so we'll get back to Captain America. We're talking about Chris Evans, who I was never a massive fan of. I actually think he's like a one-trick pony type actor. Yeah. I was never really that impressed with him until he did The Avengers.
Yes.
And then, to me, that character came alive because of the absolute fucking genius of Joss Whedon, who wrote some better dialogue for him and made him into Captain America. It wasn't until that film he became Captain America to me. Right. The first one, it was just like, you could have put anyone in the role, I want to give a shit. Yeah. When it came to The Avengers, he was fucking excellent. And I can't knock him on it, which is why I'm looking forward to the second one of this. I'm loving Marvel Studios.
I mean, Robert Redford's in this.
Absolutely. And
which is, Samuel L. Jackson, I'm sorry, but...
stars in anything.
I'm getting fucked off with him. I mean, I loved him in Pulp Fiction, but now whenever I see him in a film, I just think, oh, for fuck's sake. It's like he's on a bloody conveyor belt and he's just moving through production companies and they just go, right, we'll just pick a Samuel L. Jackson off here. It's like he's been fucking cloned and used for every... we're going to see him in fucking... He's going to be on the news, he's going to be on fucking CBeebies, doing bloody In the Night Garden. He's on fucking everything. Isn't he? Motherfucking Nicky Knock!
I kind of agree. He stars in everything.
This is way below, motherfucker. That's what You know, he's just going to be on everything. I'm just getting sick of him.
And I think you're kind of right. But I think I could tell you a story about Samuel L. Jackson, which was the man obviously has some kind of gravitas. I sat in a full cinema when I went to watch The Matrix Reloaded, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it might have been the third one, I'm not sure. One of the two, Revolutions Reloaded. And I'm not kidding, it was packed. Everybody was in there, noisy. The film hadn't started yet, all this sort of stuff. And then back in that time, I believe Samuel L. Jackson started doing a few adverts for something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so everyone's noisy. They're all, kids together pissing around, as they do before a film starts and that sort of shit. Samuel L. Jackson came on the screen, and I'm not kidding, the fucking auditorium went silent. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything since. So he obviously has some kind of...
Yeah, he was a quality actor, but I think he's moved into... I don't know. When I see him as Nick Fury, it always reminds me of him as Mr. Glass in Unbreakable.
You think so?
Yeah, it's this kind of superhero, formulaic... to me, he ticks all the boxes... that he shouldn't do now, which is that he's exhausted his to me his credibility as a great actor. You know, people like Morgan Freeman dangerously came close to doing that as well. It's the same delivery style. You know, that every single film he was in, you know, he would be exactly the same. Awesome in Shawshank Redemption. But then subsequent films that he was in, he was great in Seven, but he hasn't really shown much development. And
do you think that could be down to the actor's age, though? I mean, if
possibly, or just typecasting, and
possibly. But
he's being paid and maybe being dictated to that. You know, they want the same. They want the classic Morgan Freeman.
It could be. I mean, if you look at these actors now, I mean, a lot of people won't realise that Samuel L. Jackson is like 65 years of age.
Yeah,
he doesn't fucking look it, but he's 65 years
of age. Yeah.
And if you look at all the great actors of the past, you know, I'll tell you the person who drops into my door, we'll talk about in the next 10-15 minutes, is actually Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
The man was a fucking powerhouse.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't wait to see the next Robert Downey Jr., fucking hell. The next... Robert De Niro film.
Yeah.
And then what happened? What happened, Robert? Seriously, what happened? I think personally, DiCaprio came along and Martin Scorsese fell in love with him.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of just went, see you later, Bobby.
And it was like, De Niro, who's that?
Precisely, yeah. So,
you're not good to me anymore. It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And then he's just started in an absolute bucket load of shit. You know, although I will admit, I'm guilty pleasure, I like Meet the Fockers.
Great film. Yeah,
I guilty pleasure. Yeah. I think he's brilliant in it.
It's wicked when he puts that lie detector on Ben Stiller, and it's awesome. And he's got that little basement room with all of his CIA stuff or whatever.
He's brilliant in it. So I can't really knock him on that. But you know, I think it's probably down to age. I mean, I still love Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. You know,
right?
He's got such a... He takes control of the room, if you know what I mean. The only person who seems to be able to outdo him is Bobby Downey Jr.
Right.
Who, let's face it, just sucks everything around him. It's like, I'm Bobby Downey Jr. It's my film, not yours.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you?
But he doesn't walk around with that attitude.
It just
happens, doesn't it? He owns. He
owns everything. He's got so much charisma. It's beyond belief. He just oozes out his butt crack. He just can't help himself. He's fantastic because of it. And you know, the certain bits with Nick Fury's character, especially with Samuel L. Jackson, which I love him in, so I'll look forward to seeing him show up on screen. He still commands the screen.
Right.
He might star in a load of bollocks these days, and he does pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, he's a whore for hire these days when it comes to films. I'm sorry, Samuel, if you hear this, but it's true. You know, it's whore for hire. He just stars in anything.
Yeah,
you know,
a bit like
what's that? You want me to star in a kiddie program? Yeah, sure. I'll come on. I'll swear for the next 20 minutes, and I'll disappear.
It's motherfucking Jackanory.
So you know. But you know, there's a scene in the Avengers with Samuel L. Jackson, and I think he's absolutely amazing. Just because of the look, and he acts it so well with just his one eye. You know, they're up on the heli character, and it's going to crash. And he says, "We need to get this thing over water." He says, "I can't, sir. The navigation's down." He goes, "Is the sun coming up?" They put it on the left, that kind of thing,
yeah.
and he still absolutely nails it every
Yeah.
time. So I can't really knock his Nick Fury. I do agree with you. He is becoming a whore for hire.
He was in. Was it called Deep Blue Sea? Was he in?
Deep Blue Sea. He gets munched.
Classic film, but that speech that he gives is very Samuel L. Jackson.
It is, absolutely.
He gets killed. But I loved him in Die Hard 3 with Avengers.
Oh, he's brilliant in that.
He's great in that.
I love him in that.
That's what I quite like, the vulnerable side to him in that. And I think now they seem to cast him in these very sort of authoritative roles in films, and I love the guy, but I think he's being typecast. But I'm really interested that Robert Redford is in this film, because this guy used to be a powerhouse in the 70s, and the early 80s. His career then just took a massive dive bomb.
Am I the only person who thinks that he's secretly Brad Pitt's dad?
He is a bit like that, isn't he? The look at the look, yeah.
Going back to this, I'm going off a little bit. He reminds me, I think he's Brad Pitt's dad, and if you look at Robert Downey Jr., I think Al Pacino's his dad.
Right.
I'm not kidding. Put them next to each other in a picture. I'm not kidding. You'll sit there.
They do have a similar look.
They do, yeah. I'm sorry, Robert, if you hear this. I don't mean it. It's only a joke.
That's cool. No, but it's an interesting casting to have Robert Redford in there. That may be either cynically, that might be him trying to reboot his character, or it might be just that he loves superhero films and just took an opportunity.
I would imagine it's because at the minute, the biggest powerhouses in the cinemas at the minute, it is the dawn and the time of the superhero movie.
Oh, it is. It's
and as a little comic book geek fan, which I am, I'm fucking loving every last minute of it. It's like the geeks have inherited the earth, if you know
Is
what I mean.
Kenneth Branagh in this as well? Or did I?
No, I don't believe so.
Who's the Winter Soldier then in this?
The Winter Soldier in this is played by Sebastian Stan, who is actually Bucky from the first film, if anybody's up on the story. You saw him die falling off a train, and then all of a sudden he shows up as this character. So it's got a quite instrumental sort of
So he's
story.
been modified then, presumably,
I
in some
presume so.
way by the Russian army.
In the comic books, Bucky, for a short time, became Captain America
Right.
for a little while. So I'd assume this is their way of introducing that character back in.
Yeah. So personally, I'd give this a 3. I really hate Captain America as a character.
I'm not too sure. The
only superhero I put him above is Ronald fucking McDonald. In fact, I'd rather see fucking Ronald McDonald the Winter Soldier.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I actually think the trailer for this looked really, really good. So for me, I'm going to give it an 8. But
fuck me!
I'm going to give it an 8 only because I've literally invested in these Marvel Studio movies from the beginning, and I want to see where they're taking this character. And if they made such a massive leap from the first Captain America and then delivering him in the Avengers, and it was such a massive leap, he suddenly changed his character, I think they're going to continue down that path. And I honestly believe that this character will start coming into his own now. And let's face it, how cool is it in that trailer when he has that little... is in the elevator... And he also
when he beats the shit out of him.
And it's obviously brilliant,
yeah.
And I love the shot at the end when he bursts through that door, then just wangs his great big fucking shield out and he just catches it. If you don't get at least a little bit excited about that.
I found that quite interesting, that he killed all those people in that lift, because that isn't your sort of average superhero
Exactly, that's if he killed them at all. He might have just knocked them all out.
I think he shot some people. And
did he shoot them? There you go, you see. So maybe he's not such
It reminded me a bit, we were talking about Die Hard. I'm sure there's a bit in
Die Hard 3.
Die Hard 3 where he's in a lift and he kills them all. And it just reminded me of that. And I just thought, fuck, this is supposed to be like probably a PG-13 or something, and he's just going to beat the shit out of everybody. You'd never see Chris Reeve doing that as Superman.
No, well, to be fair, they never gave him the fucking chance to.
I suppose so.
Different back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, he does throw a few punches. So, they obviously headed in the right direction.
That's true.
The Solcons are such fucking idiots for firing him. Could you imagine the actual films they would have delivered if they kept Richard Donner?
Well, it was intended to be one long film, wasn't it?
Was it? I didn't realise. I thought it was meant to be shot as 2, and they put it together that way. I know that too.
The original idea was to include, because at the beginning of the first Superman film, you have Zod, Ursa, and Non being consigned to the Phantom Zone for their crimes, and you have them come back in Superman 2, but originally when Richard Donner was filming it, he intended it to be to have Zod and that confrontation in the first film.
I did not know that.
Because he had so much footage in the same way that Peter Jackson had with The Hobbit, and decided to turn it into a trilogy because of the volume, sheer scale of the storyline. Donner decided that there would be there's a potential for a sequel, and that he would chop it off at a particular point, and then you would have a sequel, which was Superman 2.
I did not know
that was.
I know there was. I know they were shooting it side by side.
Yeah.
I know that, and I also know for the fact that the original ending for the first Superman movie wasn't the turning back the time. It was meant to end just as the missile goes into space.
Just before it shatters.
And then you see them get released, which they actually brilliantly done for the Donner cut. You actually see that scene, and you get the fantastic Terrence Stamp go free.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they head towards Earth, and then it finishes there.
Yeah.
But I did not know that.
Yeah, there's some ropey, unfinished special effects in the Donner cut, but you definitely get the feeling that it would have been it would have been much darker, and it would have been more epic compared to.
You might not have realised that some of those effects were actually done when they redid the Donner cut. Then they made them look like that on purpose to fit in with the look of the film.
Right.
So even the shot where you see Superman supposedly pushes off the bus off himself, that's actually reshot. It's somebody else in the Reeve suit doing it.
Oh, okay.
So just to edit it together, I think. So yeah, I understand where you're going, but yeah, I love that film.
Yeah, no, it's quality.
I fucking love that.
But this, I'm going to give it a 3.
I'm still sticking to my guns. I'll stick to an 8. I disagree on this one. So.
Okay, that's cool. That's fine. And hopefully, we'll get the same sort of level of disagreement amongst our podcast followers.
Absolutely.
We'll get a sort of debate.
We want to hear from you, podcasting.
Definitely.
Viewers.
Don't hold back. We've said it before about trolls. You will be deleted if you start putting trollish shit on there. We won't tolerate racism. We won't tolerate political sort of campaigning comments or anything like that, or religious stuff, or anything to do with Nazis or anything like that. That's just going to be gone. We're interested in your thoughts and views about the movies or any of the links that we may have missed and stuff like that. We want to hear from you.
In fact, I've got an idea while we're at this. If you have a question that you would like to ask us about a particular film that's coming up and you want to hear our view, leave it in the comments underneath the YouTube and we will put it in the next podcast.
Yeah, we will. That's good. And we'll name you as well. Your username, or if it's your personal name, of course, whatever your username is, we will mention you specifically and your question, so that you'll get a proper shout out and mentioning on there. So that's good. Okay, so big variation in score with that one. Haha. Next one. Next one is Grudge Match, starring Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro. So I'm going to call up IMDb's
What my arse on it?
synopsis. It looks like that's a 2013 film.
Oh, it's not released yet, but I'm
It's
sorry.
not
Shit, hate it. I'm not going to go too much into this. I'm just going to slate it, full stop. I can't stand it.
It's been given 6.9 by IMDb. I suspect that those people that reviewed it were probably just allowed to use the internet in the home where they are.
I think so. I'm sorry. Shit. I've got to say it again. Once more.
Shit.
There we go.
Yeah. Storyline for that is a pair of aging boxing rivals are coaxed out of retirement to fight one final bout 30 years after their last match. I think we can cover this in 30 seconds. Sylvester Stallone is basically like Rocky, only a little bit more intelligent. Robert De Niro is a bit like, Raging Bull that he was in, only it kind of like in his Meet the Fockers type guys, more sort of comical delivery of his lines. I hated it. I thought it was some of the acting, well, not the acting because it was De Niro, but the script must be absolutely shit. Because he says something like, "I took a dump on your porch" or something before they start to fight.
Oh.
I mean, this is lower than low. This is fucking lower than Will Ferrell shit. This is absolute crap, and it got a 6.9 on IMDb. To me, this is bargain fucking bin DVD release. I've said this before about other films. If you want a fucking door wedge, get this, because it's going to be cheaper. It fucking is shit.
It just looks shocking. I can't fucking stand it. And it's such a shame, as I really like both of the actors in it.
Yeah, they fucked themselves with it.
It's a real shame, and it's just playing off the fact that you've got Raging Bull and Rocky in the same film.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that's not going to sell. I mean, if you think of it this way, back in the day, if they'd done this in like the early 90s, just as Rocky was coming to an end, or I would imagine this would have done really, really well, because you're playing off the back of that. But 20, 30 years later, who gives a fuck?
Exactly.
Who absolutely gives a fuck? And it's a real shame too, because I fucking loved Rocky Balboa. I thought he was brilliant in that.
Yeah.
And now this. What?
There's just a couple of observations I've got to make about this. Is that, first and foremost, Sylvester Stallone actually looks better in this film physically. He's probably been training and stuff. But I've seen him in interviews, whereas before he looked like some kind of Botoxed fucking collagen implant person.
I'm not even sure it's actually Stallone. I think it's just a mask that somebody cuts on every day and goes out.
He looks better. I mean, he started to look like his mother.
Oh God, that
which was some kind of, without wanting to be sued, but she didn't look great.
Too much.
And there's so much Botox and collagen implants and stuff. He looked mental. He looks better in this, so I'm pleased for you, Sly, because you're looking good in this film.
Not only that, it's a hell of a thing, isn't it, for a guy who's like 64 years of age, and he looks better than I do, and I'm 30.
He's amazing. Is he really only 60? I thought he was older than that.
No, he's about 65, I think it is. I think he's 65. I mean, even the brilliant Schwarzenegger's 67, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that must be right, because he was probably in his 20s when the first Rocky came out, wasn't
it?
Yeah. And then we've got Robert De Niro. But in terms of the lineup of other actors, there is no one on there. I mean, what name? B.J. Geyer. B.J. It's not a great name, but
in England, especially.
Exactly, and you can go onto Wikipedia and
work out
define BJ or whatever if you want to, but we're not going into that here. But I can't pick out anybody else that I recognise. So this is obviously either a film that they've decided to make themselves for a laugh, or somebody's just gone, do you want 20 million to make a shit film? They've just gone, yeah, fucking do it on a Sunday afternoon, see you later. So it got 6.9. 6.9 is probably the IQ of the people that have voted. I'm sorry, but this is shit. Can you?
I'm not going to add too much to that, because I think you're right. I'm just going to continue laughing at that last comment.
It's bollocks. Let's move on to Hercules. Again, when we're talking about lineups of people, we've just talked about Grudge Match and the cast and stuff. I don't recognise anybody on that trailer. That might be my lack of knowledge. I mean, Dwayne Johnson, fucking The Rock, is in this, and he plays Hercules. I didn't really... I'm sorry, but when I looked at the trailer, I didn't even know that Dwayne Johnson was in this film.
I think that's because there's two films and we're looking at the wrong one.
Really?
There are two Hercules films coming out this year, ladies and gentlemen. There is one starring The Rock, which, in all honesty, another man who's got full of charisma, and it will probably turn out to be better than the other one. And then there's another Hercules, which is The Legend of Hercules, I think it is.
Let's have a look, because I apologise, because there shouldn't be... I mean, fuck me, got 4.1. But in my mind, you should not release two shit. At least release one. If there's two films that have come out on the same story, at least release one that's good. Both of them sound fucking shit. One's got The Rock in it, and this one's got the cock in it. I mean, this has got 4.1 on IMDb, and I'm not fucking surprised. I mean, I'm just going to tell you exactly what I thought, and I made a little note on here about Hercules. Pretty boy, again, playing Hercules, like some fucking model for a bloody... is some kind of success story for the fucking... that workout, bloody insanity fucking thing. That's what he looks like. Get ripped in 3 weeks. It looks like that. It looks like a copy off 300. The dialogue is like it's been ripped straight from Gladiator. Like he says, I will show these people their salvation or something, which is almost word for word from Gladiator about giving people the, whatever. And then you've got, you shouldn't be going out with this woman from this country, she's from Crete, she's a princess. That's fucking Troy. So somebody's taken a few stories, mixed them all together in a fucking blender, shat in it, and come out with this bollocks.
Take a deep breath, James. Sorry, no. The only thing I will say about this film is I happen to like a few of the actors in this.
I hate them all now, even if they were good.
I can't knock Liam McIntyre because I quite like the guy who was in Spartacus on the last couple of seasons they did, which I thought he was fucking phenomenal in. I'm warming to Scott Adkins.
Who?
Scott Adkins is... he is... I'm sorry, Scott, you are a direct-to-DVD type person, but...
I mean, for fuck's sake, you got a character here called Half-Face. I mean, fucking hell.
But other than that, we'll get back on the track. I do think it looks like a big bag of monkey shit.
I mean,
I think it looks crap. I don't think it will get released in the cinema here in England. It's more than likely it's going to go straight to Blu-ray or DVD.
Absolute fucking shit. I mean, who is this Kellen Lutz, and where did he learn to speak? Because, fuck me, the dialogue is such fucking bollocks, and they should be fucking ashamed of themselves for even signing that contract for getting involved with this fucking film. If I'd have watched this film and I'd have been in it, I'd have fucking hanged myself after seeing it. That trailer is fucking bollocks.
It's awful, isn't it?
It looks like somebody's lifted the fucking animated sequences from that Rome Age of Empires or whatever it was from some fucking PC game back in the 1990s. They've nicked the costumes from fucking Gladiator and from other shit. Well, Gladiator was brilliant, but from whatever shitty Rome films they've been in the past 10 years. It's just, it's just such bollocks. Did you notice as well with him with his fucking helmet on, like this, he's shouting like this is fucking Sparta. It's fucking shit.
Absolutely. It's not only that. Since when was fucking Hercules some kind of Roman?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Since when? Since when was he a fucking Roman? He looks like a fucking Roman on that front cover. I hate it.
I tell you what I love about this, though. The origin story of the mythical Greek hero, betrayed by his stepfather, the king, and exiled and sold into slavery because of a forbidden love. Now, what does that tell you? A forbidden love?
Oh, that tells me a few things, if I'm openly honest. I think he's been greasing up a few bottoms. That's what I think.
It could be, but from what I can recall, the story of Hercules, because that's what his name was, not Hercules. The story of Hercules was not to do about being betrayed by his stepfather. It was about fucking some jawbone of a lion and twins and fucking stuff like that, wasn't it?
He had to do a load of different tasks.
Loads, these fucking trials. This says, he must use his formidable powers to fight his way back to his rightful kingdom. Where is your god now, half-god? Or, you are just a man, not a demigod. That's like Clash of the Titans. Somebody's just got all these different films and gone, let's mix it all up and make another load of bollocks. It is shit, and they should stop making it. If they haven't finished it, just fucking bin it.
I think it's already out, but can you hear that, James? Can you hear it? That's a toilet flushing. That's what it is, and that's the film disappearing down the drain. It's rubbish. Ignore it. Do not watch this film. I'm sorry. Awful, crap, pathetic, and any other film that I can actually mention to go with it. Shit! I don't want to know.
I mean, for fuck's sake, this sums it all up. There's even a character in this film called Kakia.
Okay, I tell you
this could not be Kakia.
Absolutely, and that is the name of the film originally. They just changed it slightly so people wouldn't flush it down the bog with what it should be in the film.
And what a load of old shit calling the film The Legend of.
The Legend.
The Legend of Hercules.
Oh.
It's not a legend, it's the made-up shit of Hercules.
Exactly, they're not even following any part of the story full stop.
The Legend of Hercules, like you said, is full of the trials. I bet there'll be no fucking trials in that. The only trial will be watching this fucking film.
Damn right, damn right. Go away. Let's stop talking about it because it's winding me.
Load of old shit. Right, so, next is HomeFront, starring Jason Statham. So, HomeFront to me, I'm sorry, sounds like a DIY store. Watching the trailer, I actually thought that it might be quite a good film. To me, it has connotations of Taken.
Yes, a little bit.
Abducted child, man that's been pushed to the edge. He's like an FBI agent or something, or DEA, whatever that is.
It looks really good too. I mean, it's got a great cast as well. You know, the one thing I love about Jason Statham, he doesn't proclaim himself to be a great actor.
Sylvester Stallone wrote the screenplay, apparently.
But he originally wrote it for himself and then passed it on. It's probably something he wrote 10, 15 years ago or something.
The only thing that I was not happy about was the fact that James Franco's in it. But based on the trailer, it looks right.
It does.
But whenever I've seen James Franco in other stuff, including Spider-Man, I think he ruins a film.
You think so?
Yeah.
Have you seen him in a film called Pineapple Express?
No.
You really should, because he's fantastic in it.
Does he get hit with a pineapple? In the face?
Not quite.
Oh, in that case, I'm not interested.
I'm sure he's had a few pineapples in the face in the past, but
he has.
No, he's actually quite good in that. But I generally am looking forward to watching this film. I actually think it looks really good. I think the cast is wonderful.
I'm happy that Clancy Brown's in it.
I haven't seen him in ages. Actually.
Highlander, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Clancy Brown's awesome.
I haven't seen him in ages.
No, he sort of crops up every now and again, but whenever he's in it, he always brings some gravitas to a film, so I'm really pleased that he's in it. You know, he's a sheriff, but I wonder whether or not he's going to be like a badass sheriff.
Or do you think he'll be the guy that sort of comes out at the end to kick ass with Statham because of what's going on?
It might be, yeah. It might end up backing him up or something, but I thought it was... I'm quite... It's probably not a film that I would watch. I mean, storyline, I'll read the storyline out that we've got on IMDb, which is Phil Broker is... Phil Broker? It's not a bad name, actually, rather than something like Zach Kraken or Zach McGuinness or whatever. They always try and give people like cool names, don't
It's not only
they?
that, as an action hero, you never really hear a Phil, do you?
No.
It's always a John or
Phil.
a Jack.
This is like Keith or Derek, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good, actually, isn't it? Phil Broker is a former DEA agent who's gone through a crisis after his action against a biker gang went horribly wrong and it cost the life of his boss's son. He's recently widowed and is left with a 9-year-old daughter, Maddie. He decides to quit the turbulent and demanding life of thrill for Maddie's sake and retires to a small town. His daughter fights off a boy who was bullying her at school and sets in motion a round of events that end in his direct confrontation with the local meth drug lord, and I think that's played by James Franco. His past history with the biker gang also enters the arena, making matters more complex, but he has a mission in his mind to protect his daughter, and he's ready to pay any cost that it demands. So, I thought that was, from a trailer perspective, I thought it was good. I think it's going to be high octane, lots of fights, going to be like Taken, a lot of tension. The fact that a kid's going to be abducted as well, it's quite a contentious subject matter. I think it's going to be, the question it's going to ask you is how far are you going to go to protect the people that you love?
Oh, let's face it, and if Jason Statham is your daddy, come on.
He's going to stomp on bollocks, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is. He's going to stomp on bollocks and then make you swallow them and shit them out, and then he's going to make you stomp on them again.
Then he's going to fry him up in front of you and shit
I
him up
am
your
a
nose.
huge fan of the Statham. He may not star in everything that's particularly that good these days, but I fucking love Jason Statham. I think it's
good.
fantastic.
I mean, in terms of sort of supporting actors as well, you've got Winona Ryder. You've got Omar Benson Miller. I'm sure I've seen him in stuff. I recognise the name. You've got Clancy Brown that we've mentioned. We've got Kate Bosworth. And obviously James Franco, who I'm not too keen on, but he did look reasonably good from his acting point of view in this trailer.
To be fair, he looks like a hick.
Yeah, he does, but he looks like a got attitude this time.
Yeah.
He's older, he's filled out a bit more, he's less pretty boy now, he's tougher.
He is generally a bloody good actor, though.
Yeah, he
really
is. I don't doubt it. I just,
actor.
I've never really thought he was that great, but I think this could be a winner. Personally, I think the 6.8 rating it got from IMDb, to me, is reasonable. I'd probably give it more of a 5 or a 6, but...
I'll lean towards a 6 or a 7, but only because I do love Statham. I mean, I watched his last film that I saw was called Hummingbird, which is a completely different sort of role for him, and he's brilliant in that as well. So he does have some acting range in there as well. He's not just the English Bruce Willis who shows up and whoops the crap out of everybody on the screen, because he does remind me of an English Bruce Willis, but without being a dick, like Bruce Willis actually is.
But I mean, those Die Hard, the original Die Hards, 1 and 2, and 3 is good. I love those.
His acting. More of some stories I've heard, from certain people. These days he's just a cantankerous old bastard.
Okay.
I know better. I've been there. I've done that. I'm Bruce Willis. That kind of attitude that he seems to have. So, but Statham...
That's an interesting noise, actually. I quite like that noise that you just made.
Yeah.
I think it's quite. I think it's quite descriptive of somebody that's undecided as to how good or shit that film's going to be. But I think it's going to be reasonably
I think it'll be good. I'll enjoy that. I know.
It's probably a good popcorn flick, cinema.
Yeah.
It's one of those dangerous films though that, like with Braveheart, when it finishes, you want to go and pick up a sword and run out there and start slaying people, and I wonder whether or not this Homefront is like,
I think
you're going to see somebody walking with a child, even if it's their parent, you're going to want to jump on them and pummel them to free the kid.
I think you're lucky that you managed to go away from Braveheart and go save people. I walked away from Braveheart crying my fucking eyes out. That's
really?
what I did. Freedom! No! Don't do it, you bastards! That's how I walked away from Braveheart.
Oh no, I walked away from Braveheart because it ends with
the Battle of Bannockburn, where they all start running across the field towards the English army, and it was that point that I was just thinking, yeah, this is great. I want to pick up a broadsword and fucking start chopping some heads. So yeah, we each take different things out of films, don't we?
Yeah, I'm obviously a big pussy because I cried. Whereas it was Jay wanted to walk off and start whooping the fuck out of people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, I think its rating is reasonably good. So I think that's possibly a winner. Next on the list is I, Frankenstein, and I say that with a kind of dryness on purpose because I'm sorry, but you know, we know this comes from the same people that made Underworld. Without even knowing that, it instantly looks like an Underworld film.
Without the awesome Kate Beckinsale.
Without the awesome and sexually charged Kate Lovely Bottom Beckinsale. It's got Bill Nighy in it, which again is another nod because he was in Underworld.
I fucking love Bill Nighy.
Bill Nighy's great, but again he's like Samuel L. Jackson now. People pick him and he always does the same character in these sorts of films.
I mean, even in Pirates, you could tell it's Bill Nighy where he walks over to people and says, "Do you feel death?"
You know, he is great in that film, though, isn't he?
He's fantastic in it, and I love Bill Nighy.
Davy Jones, he's great in it.
I love Bill Nighy. You know, the man should have been cast as the Doctor.
Yeah, that's true.
The man should have been cast as the Doctor.
Doctor Who. For
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Doctor Who, for those in America who don't call him as good mates as I am with him, the Doctor. You know, he should have been the Doctor, in my opinion. I love Bill Nighy. I'm actually, this may be a little guilty pleasure flick. I think, you know, there were certain films out there that look pile of absolute fucking monkey spunk, and I happen to think this will be a bit like, there was a film released a couple of years ago called Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Oh, Christ.
And I happen to kind of enjoy that film, but only because I love the fact it takes the piss out of itself.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like Van Helsing. It's in the same sort of...
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Same sort of genre as that.
You know, speaking of Van Helsing, that film, I loved that when I first
Kate
watched it.
Beckinsale's in it as well. So
yeah, that helps. You know, she does help pull a stonker in my pants, but... The thing about that film is, the more you watch it, the more boring it gets.
Yeah,
Have you noticed this?
Yeah.
Multiple reviewings. Honestly, it gets more and more boring the more times you watch it.
It's dull to start off with, really, isn't it?
It's interesting.
It's like dishwater. It gets gradually more cloudy.
Yeah, and it's a shame as well, because I like Aaron Eckhart as well. You know, he's brilliant.
He looks a lot like... Have you ever seen Game of Thrones?
I don't really watch it.
He looks a lot like the guy that plays Jaime Lannister. He has the same sort of look. In fact, I thought it was the same guy. Have you ever seen Mama? Have you seen Mama? The supernatural film?
I've seen clips.
The guy that plays those kids' father, that's the guy that's in Game of Thrones. And Aaron Eckhart and him look very similar. And I initially thought that it was him in it.
You see, for me, Aaron Eckhart's got that typical superhero look to him. You know, the big chin and all that type of thing. If you look at comic book drawn superhero characters, have all got that.
He wasn't in Batman Dark Knight, was he?
Yes, he was.
He was Two-Face, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was Harvey Dent.
He does have that. He does have that look about him. When you look at supporting actors and actresses, you know, there's no one. It's basically Bill Nighy and Aaron
I do
Eckhart.
recognise Jay Courtney. Anyone who watched the last Die Hard film or Jack Reacher, he was in that.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, but yeah, I'm not impressed by this film. It's not something. It's not. Sure. Yeah, it's not something I'd see at the cinema.
No, not for me.
In fact, I probably would. I would probably have to wait. We put it this way: I wouldn't overtly pay for this film. It would have to be like on Film 4 or Channel 5 or something,
or any other free film channel that you end up going. I mean, me personally, I'll probably enjoy it if I watch it. I won't go to the cinema for it, but I reckon it'll be one of those little guilty pleasure type flicks.
It's really CGI heavy. Lots of flying winged things with teeth.
And I also love the idea that they're completely changing the Frankenstein idea. That, you know, I've always loved Mary Shelley's Frankenstein story. It's just a fantastically put together, absolutely fantastically brilliant. You know, the ideas behind it. And we all kind of get the idea that the monster didn't die. We all know this.
Yeah.
You know, he sinks into the cold and in the Antarctic, and you think, oh, did he die? Didn't he?
Just wanders off. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like this idea. My biggest problem, is that Aaron Eckhart's a fucking pretty boy. You couldn't imagine him as Frankenstein, if that makes sense.
No, he's not Frankenstein.
Well, the monster. You can't imagine him as the monster.
You see, that's the other thing. It's called I, Frankenstein, but it should really be I, Monster, because Frankenstein was the Genevan scientist, not the creature.
I imagine he's taken the name.
Yeah, it looks like he picks up the book and it's got the F on it, and he's going to read about
if you look
himself.
at it this way, the monster always saw him as his father.
Yeah.
So I would imagine he's taken the name. That's what I would go for.
Yeah.
I do think it would be... I reckon it's not a cinema film. I probably won't buy it on DVD.
No, I mean...
I will give it a go. And I probably think I'll enjoy it, but only because there are certain films you can switch off to and drool in front of it. And I think that's one of them.
I mean, the storyline, this supports what we've said about Underworld as well. Frankenstein's creature finds himself caught in an all-out, centuries-old war between two immortal clans. Now, vampires and lycans in Underworld, exactly the same. Is he going to find himself caught in between the vampires and the lycans, and it's going to be an arc and link us all in with
that's a possibility.
with Underworld, and then eventually there'll be like an Underworld
crossover,
similar to the Avengers, only with Underworld characters where they're all going to get together. And
I think they should make an Underworld film every year, only because I just love seeing Kate Beckinsale in tight PVC.
Yeah.
That's just personal to me. I don't think the film's particularly good, if I'm
No.
being honest, but I do love watching them anyway, just for that. They are guilty pleasure films, but...
No IMDb rating, it's not out yet. I'm going to give it 2, maybe even 1.5. I'm not happy with it.
I think I'll stick with that. It's about 1.5. I don't think it's particularly good. It's a real shame, because I love Aaron Eckhart, but I just don't think this is particularly looking that good.
It's just another CGI monster flick, and it's just going to be shit. It's PG. Everything seems to be this generic PG-13 these days as well.
Exactly, and it wouldn't surprise me that there's a much harder cut out there, which they'll release on the DVD when the film doesn't do that well. Which is what you may have noticed happens these days. If a film doesn't do particularly that well, when it hits Blu-ray, you're suddenly getting an extended cut.
Yeah.
Which is obviously just to try and make you buy the film, because no fucker wants to watch it. Basically.
Yeah, that's what'll happen. That's what definitely happened. So next is Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit. Again, this is all tying in with a long-standing. I think it's Tom Clancy, isn't it?
Tom Clancy, the wonderful Tom Clancy, R.I.P. Sir.
Rest in peace, Tom. But I mean, this Jack Ryan is a character that we've seen in multiple guises. Harrison Ford played him at one stage.
Alec Baldwin.
Ben Affleck. Exactly. Yeah. There's been Hunt for Red October is a classic. But it's like this guy, he was in Star Trek, the reboot Star Trek, wasn't he? And Into Darkness. He's a good actor. There's only a couple of Jack Ryan-based films that I actually liked. Hunt for Red October being one of the main ones. I quite like Patriot Games as well. I thought that was all right. But I'm not. I love the Bourne Identity, but I've never really been that enamoured with the Jack Ryan stories as a theme. I think changing the guy every few films as well is a bit like James Bond, but doesn't quite work because to me it doesn't have the same defined strength of character like Bond has, and you can sort of accept with Bond that he's going to change in a similar way that Doctor Who does. It's strong enough to allow you to do that, but Jack Ryan always found him to be a weaker character. So
they're beefing him up though, you can tell.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot more action in there. Chris Pine really kicks shit in that trailer. I think he looks great.
Oh, I love him.
And I didn't say he looks shit, I said he kicks shit like he kicks ass in this trailer. It looks really good. One thing I wasn't happy about was Keira Knightley with her American accent. I really hate English actors.
Are you sure she's doing an American accent?
Yeah, she is.
Because I remember that his wife is actually English in those films. I'm pretty sure of that.
No, she puts on an American accent in this film.
No.
This really fucks me off. Kevin Costner's in it. This is Kenneth Branagh. I mean, if Kenneth Branagh's in something, it generally means it's going to be a good film.
That's because he directed this film too.
Yeah, which means it's going to be all right. I think.
I think so too. I think it's going to be very, very intricately put together. I think it'll be action heavy, just to kind of beef up the character of Jack Ryan a little bit. I think it's perfectly cast because I love Chris Pine.
Oh, he's great.
He's wonderful as Captain Kirk. Even in the smaller roles I've seen him in, he's generally quite good. I don't think he ever puts a phone-in performance. So
he's not classically good looking either, in the sense that he's not really a pretty boy next door type.
No,
he's rugged enough to accept that he can
precisely
kick, in the same way that we've got with the Bourne Identity. You know,
Matt Damon.
Yeah, he's Matt Damon. Although he's a good-looking guy, he's not like your sort of typical pin-up model. And I think he kind of pulls off Jason Bourne without having this kind of model looks which would detract from the sort of action side. In the same way that Daniel Craig isn't a classically handsome guy,
But
so it
women love
works
him anyway,
because he's got license then to kick some serious ass without this kind of suave, beautiful person image getting in the way of that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When you're going back to Daniel Craig, that's the thing that's always happened with James Bond. It's never been a pretty boy. Not if you think about it. He's meant to be, but he's
Your more traditional, good-looking James Bonds have been like Pierce Brosnan. Sean Connery was a good-looking guy when he first did it. Roger Moore, he was going off then, but he was a good-looking lad when he was younger. But they've never, like you say, they've never really always been.
They've not been pretty boys.
Not like your George Clooney's and your Brad
the thing
Pitts
about
and
the characters
stuff.
you're talking about there is that all those actors you just mentioned, including Roger Moore, who will openly come out and say that he's a scaredy cat in real life.
Yeah.
But he generally looks like he'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
And not every Bond has done that. They all look like they will whoop the fuck out of you. You know, even Pierce Brosnan has such a... I loved him as James Bond because he had such a pissed in look.
Yeah, he was great.
When he was pissed off, he looked like he'd whoop the fuck out of anyone.
Yeah.
No matter who you were. Bring on Jaws. I will fuck your mouth right through, even with your metal teeth.
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't. He didn't look like Daniel Craig does. Daniel Craig looks like a Marine. Daniel Craig looks ex-SAS and could actually fucking pummel you with his little finger. Pierce Brosnan and some of the other James Bonds didn't look like physically that they would be physically commanding. They weren't big, but they looked like they had those kind of they were wily enough to kind of get the upper hand through their determination and intelligence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, I would like to mention, especially about Daniel Craig, is, you know, everyone's praising him for how brilliant he is Bond, and he is absolutely fantastic.
In my mind, he's the best Bond.
Yeah, and the thing is,
been.
if you look 25 years ago, there was another actor right there playing James Bond who's doing, back then, what Daniel Craig is doing now, and that man was Timothy Dalton, who doesn't really get that much love as James Bond. No. And if you think about it,
well, Living Daylights was the only outing for him, wasn't it?
Well, he did too. He did Living Daylights and then Licence to Kill. And
of course he did, yeah.
And I love him as James Bond. But now Daniel Craig is doing just that, but just with upped action.
Yeah.
You know, and Timothy Dalton really doesn't get any love for it. So all those Daniel Craig fans out there, if you've never watched the older ones, go back and watch Tim Dalton's one, and you will see where Daniel Craig gets his idea of James Bond from, because that's exactly what he's doing, just with upped action.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I can see. Going back to Jack Ryan,
similar.
It's very similar, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the actors that have played him back in the past, apart from maybe Harrison Ford, let's face it, the man is the granddaddy. I love Harrison Ford. You know, he may be the mumbler these days. If you've ever watched an interview with him, the man just can't be bothered. So Harrison, what did you think of this?
Yeah, he was great.
You know what I mean?
He's so laid back and cool.
Yeah, exactly. The guy's awesome. So you know, back in the day, that I think Chris Pine is very much going to deliver more of a Harrison-y, Fordy type one, but a younger version of him. Because you always thought, basically because it's Harrison Ford, that if you pissed him off too much as Jack Ryan, he would whoop the absolute fuck out of you without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
and that's what I get from Chris Pine. I never got that from Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin always looked frightened in those films, if you ask me. That first film that he did, I know he only did
was more kind of a bureaucrat than he was an action.
He was a brain. He came across. And then you got Ben Affleck, who I can't really say anything bad against because I am a general pro Ben Affleck person.
He was alright in that.
I think he's fantastic. I love Ben Affleck. You know,
he was acceptable as Jack Ryan.
Yeah, and it's a real shame he never got to kind of expand on that with the sequel because he really deserved to, because he got it. He understood the character.
He did. Yeah,
and if it wasn't for his silly relationship issues at the time that he had, I reckon we would have got that sequel.
What film was he Jack Ryan in?
He was in...
Wasn't Clear and Present Danger, was it?
No, I can't remember the name of the bloody thing now. My brain's not kicking in. It is... I can't remember.
No, I can't either, but I remember him being good. I've seen them all up to this one, but they're all pretty good films.
Yeah, I fancy The Shadow Recruit, just for the fact, not just because I think Chris Pine is brilliant, because one of the supporting characters in this film, Kevin Costner.
Yeah, Costner's in it as well.
I fucking love Kevin Costner. The guy's fantastic.
Yeah.
I can watch the guy in anything and still think he's brilliant, even if he's doing a phone-in performance. And he has done a few films where he's like, I can't be asked. here you are, here's my face, pay me.
Yeah.
You know, and then
You ever seen Revenge?
I haven't. Any good?
Fantastic. Little known Kevin Costner film, folks. If you've never seen the film Revenge, look it up, find it. Storming performance from Kevin Costner. Fantastic storyline. Epic ending. Absolutely amazing film.
Absolutely. Okay, that's added to my list. I shall go
So
and watch that.
we've got some great people. Keira Knightley for me. Just throw her in the bin.
You're not a big fan
I'm
of
sick of Keira Knightley.
You see, that's the thing. She does phone-in performances. I don't think she's particularly a great actress myself. You know, I literally lost interest in Keira Knightley in the Pirates of the Caribbean films.
Yeah.
Because I found her so fucking boring.
She is, yeah.
And you know, and I'm sure she can put in great. I'm sure she's done performances.
She's
out
better
there.
at period costume dramas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she does some great films out there. I just haven't got a particular amount of love for her. You know, I do generally think the girl's pretty though.
She is a pretty girl. She's,
you know, so
but, yeah.
I'm going to put this in a high because I've got a big thing for this film. I think it's going to do really, really well.
I was going to give it like 7.5, 8,
I'm
maybe
going to go
8.
for an 8 because I've got high hopes for this film. And that only got raised to an 8 because I love Kevin Costner. It was originally going to be about a 6 for me, but with Kevin Costner in there, you get made an 8. I just love Costner. I think he's brilliant. If you want to watch another good film with Costner in, he did probably one of the most epic cowboy films that has ever been made, following like Unforgiven, Open Range. It is absolutely stunning as a film. He's brilliant in it. You know, I think he directed that one, but it is brilliant. It's not a fast film. It's very slow burning, but it's fantastic. Go and watch it.
For me, Unforgiven is in my mind the greatest Western film that's ever been
and it's
made.
in the same sort of
so
vein.
if it's in that vein,
I wouldn't say it's like the same sort of storyline. It's nothing like that. But what I mean is, it's got that same sort of gritty feel to it.
Yeah, I loved Unforgiven.
I loved Unforgiven. I love Open Range. You know, so I actually love Kevin Costner as well.
Dances with Wolves makes me cry at the end every time.
No, there you go. It's just
when you've got the wolf on the mountainside.
Absolutely.
It just hits you then.
It's just brilliant. So
it's
for
an
me,
amazing.
I'm going to raise it to an 8 because of Kevin Costner. I'm going to watch it because of that.
So it's going to get an 8 from us, which is you know, it deserves that. It definitely deserves an 8. You know, we're not stingy or mean with our scores here, folks. But when we say that something's getting an 8, that's because it deserves it. We haven't been paid or told to rate these films in this way.
No, not at all.
We're just giving our judgment.
It's all personal opinion. We're not speaking on anybody's behalf, just our own. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with an 8 on that one. Yeah,
that's
definitely
cool.
An 8.
So next up, we've got Lone Survivor. Looks like it was released quite recently, 10th of January. It looks like it was released, which is why. We're speaking on the 11th of January, so it looks like that's when it came out, which is why it's got a rating of 7.7 at the moment, at the time of recording this. Looks like, and I'll read the storyline now. Based on the failed June the 28th, 2005 mission Operation Red Wings, 4 members of SEAL Team 10 were tasked with the mission to capture or kill notorious Taliban leader Ahmed Shad. Now, the trailer, I thought the trailer looked really good. Obviously there's not much you can say in terms of it reminded me of XYZ because war films are war films, and if one's about Afghanistan and you've seen others about Afghanistan, then they're going to be similar in the same way that if you watch something about Iraq and then watch another film about Iraq, you're going to get a very similar look and feel. Obviously different scenarios, but you're going to get the same sort of setting, of course, because you know they have that common theme. But in terms of what this film reminded me of, with its shots and its direction, to me it felt like We Were Soldiers. It also had a Thin Red Line sort of feeling to it, to me. Also a little bit of, what's that film? Is it called Green Zone?
Oh, Green Zone with Matt Damon, absolutely.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that in it. I quite like. It also had a little bit of Platoon element in that. It's right in there in the action. That's down to the director. Yeah, you're not sort of in, like with some films. You like with a video game. Sometimes you're playing first person, where you're effectively the character that's holding the gun, or you're in third person perspective, so you actually see the characters walking around. I actually feel like this kind of puts you in a second person. It takes you closer in than third person. But you're not actually being that character. so it's one step removed from that. But it feels like you're part of this intimate group while this action's taking place.
Yeah,
I found it quite an inclusive trailer from the visuals, the direction. Obviously, the tension's there with some of the shots that they've put into this trailer in terms of them hiding out. That you've also got this moralistic quandary in there, in the sense that there's a group of children or a child that comes across that platoon or that team, and they've got to make their judgment about whether or not they kill that witness or free him. Now, it sounded to me, given the storyline, that they actually freed him, and that child then went to Taliban and told. They could have killed that child to prevent their position being exposed, but if you look at it from taking a moral high ground, is it better to be found out and die and be killed by fellow soldiers and other protagonists from the opposite side? Is it better to have that and die as a result of maintaining your kind of humanity?
Imagine having that on your mind. Then you have to do that.
Yeah, is it better to do that and risk your life than it is to kill an innocent who happens to be caught up between the two factions and survive? So it's or still die later on. So I felt that this film is going to ask those sorts of questions. I think the way that it's shot looks like it's been done well. I think there's going to be quite a lot of tension in there. Looking at the rundown of cast, Eric Bana, who started off shit, I think, in various films in his career. Troy, he didn't do very well in Two Dimensional.
Think about that film. He's actually my favourite character in the film.
He's in Hulk as well, isn't he?
He is. He played the original Bruce Banner, but
that was shite. But in this film, I think he's going to be great. Mark Wahlberg, reasonable actor.
I think he's come on.
I think he's going to come out into his own in this setting compared to what he's done before, like Planet of the Apes reboot in 2010 or whatever it was. So I think he's going to be. I think this film is going to be really good. I'm going to jump straight to a rating because there's not an awful lot you can say about war films, or not much that I can say about it. I'm going to give it like a 7.5, 8.
Well, see, the thing about this film, there's many other films out there that kind of have the same sort of look. The most recent one that jumps to my mind is
that Zero Dark 30 or something.
That was actually really slow burn. It wasn't really about the actual mission.
No.
It was more about how they built up to that mission. So you don't really spend much time with the soldiers.
But not in on the action.
For me, it makes me think of Act of Valor. I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
No.
That was absolutely fantastic. They used real SEAL team members in the
okay.
They were the actual actors in it, and then obviously dropped other actors around them.
Yeah.
But that was fantastic. It kind of has that feel to it to me, which I absolutely love. I love the cast of this film. I think Ben Foster, that guy is fantastic. He gets better in every film he's in. Admittedly, he's started in a bit of shit here and there, but what actor doesn't at some point in their career?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, Eric Bana, I love. I think he gets better and better as years come on. He is actually my favourite character in Troy, which you mentioned. I actually think he's the only one in that film that is any good. Let's face it, I thought the rest were shite.
Well, you've got Orlando Bloom in that film.
It's not Orlando Bloom. You've got it wrong. It's Orlando Bloom.
I'm sick of that.
I'm fucking wooden.
I'm sick of that guy. I really hate Orlando Bloom.
I can't stand him. I think I love Mark Wahlberg, who for me I really didn't like when he first came around. You know, I watched him the first time in Boogie Nights, and I thought, fucking hell, this guy's awful. He's got a bit of a high voice. And I remember watching a film which absolutely changed my mind about him. It was The Departed.
Ah, yes.
And I watched him in that, and then made a complete 360 on the guy.
He's great in that.
Oh, is it 180, whatever it is? I'm not very good with those kind of things, but you know, I thought he's absolutely fantastic.
He's great in that because he's a real badass cop in that.
He is, and he's brilliant in it. And then I think I watched him in my first action film I saw him was in Shooter.
Oh, okay.
And he's fucking excellent in it. And the more films I watch with him in, the more I like it.
He's quite mercurial, isn't he? In terms of his roles, he's not one of these people who's consistently good or consistently shit. If he's placed in a shit film, he normally doesn't rise above it. He's normally shit with it.
Yeah, normally it depends what it is.
He's been put in a setting in this case, I think, that is fitting to his acting style.
Don't you think he's a very intense actor?
Oh, he is, yeah.
He's got such an intense look.
Yeah.
And those are the sort of actors I really like.
He becomes the people, doesn't he?
Exactly. He's the sort of actor that looks like you know, you see some actor and you're like, oh yeah, it's that person. But when Wahlberg's on screen, you look like there's a lot more going on behind his eyes, and that's what I like about him, you know.
I mean, he's this also has a feel of Saving Private Ryan to it.
Yeah,
in a funny sort of way.
It does. I'm looking forward to this film myself.
Me too. I think it's going to be good.
I think so too. I'm going to go for an 8 on this one because I do generally look like this is going to be a good film. I don't think it won't be. I think this is going to nail it. So I'm going to go for an 8 with that one.
Cool. Okay, that's great. So we're getting quite a few films here with reasonable ratings.
We're not just the grumpy people, are we?
Absolutely. I'm quite hopeful as well for 2014, given some of the quality that's come out. It's a bit of shit, but you know, so far it looks like it's a reasonably good. It's not just like a mixed bag. I think there's probably more good stuff than.
And the really cool thing
shit.
is we can do part 2 to this because there's still trailers that have not been released. The films that are coming out this year.
Absolutely. There's more Spider-Man stuff coming up.
Spider-Man. If I ever get onto that, you won't shut me up. But the actual, you know, we've got Transformers 4 coming out this year.
Yeah.
Which I generally have a huge affection for with those films.
Is Batman vs Superman 2015?
It is 2015.
So.
But I still want to talk about it at some
Absolutely.
point.
Okay, so the next one's Need for Speed.
Don't fancy it at all.
The branding-wise, it sounds to me like it's the computer game tie-in.
It is based on the computer game.
It's got a sort of feel to it.
I think it's trying to cash in on the Fast and the Furious because, let's face it, those films are fucking massive.
Even and gone in 60 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
The sort of logo style is very indicative of the
they're just trying to
Fast
cash
and
in on it.
Furious.
I don't fancy it at all. I've got to say, Need for Speed. I am one of those people that quite like Fast and the Furious films.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Paul Walker, you were fantastic, by the way, mate. I'm generally going to miss you on the screen because I thought you were really good in those flicks. So, R.I.P. buddy. But
so for this one, storyline is fresh from prison. A street racer who was framed by a wealthy businessman associate joins a cross-country race with revenge in mind. His ex-partner, learning of the plan, places a massive bounty on his head as the race begins. Given the trailer, it looks like if you're a petrol head,
you'll love it.
You're going to love it. The cars look amazing. The action looks really good. I'm just not a car person, you know. I drive, but to me, driving's a functional thing. To me, it's not really an experience.
It's a shame as well because there's a couple of actors in there I really like. I love Dominic Cooper. I think he's brilliant. It's got the wonderful Michael Keaton in it, but not even.
You see, Michael Keaton, RoboCop 2014 is in that. I kind of get the feeling that he's picking up on anything because he's desperate to get his face.
At least he'll be back on the big screen. I mean,
his agent will be happy because I don't think he's done anything since about 1993.
I'm sure he has, just nothing big, to be fair. I mean, let's face it, everyone loves a bit of Michael Keaton. It's generally not a performance that he does that I don't like. I absolutely love Multiplicity with him in. I think he's fucking brilliant in that. The range in that film from acting from that man is just amazing.
He has got hidden depths. I mean, we talked in the first podcast, ladies and gentlemen, about Michael Keaton, you know, and specifically in reference to his appearance in RoboCop, the 2014 reboot. But, you know, Michael Keaton has got hidden depths. Maybe something good will come of this film for him.
I hope so.
You know, he did Beetlejuice, as we said in the first podcast. Beetlejuice is absolutely amazing.
And there's a sequel on the way.
So that's fantastic. But in terms of other cast members, I don't know anybody on here. You know, I've seen a lot of films, but I don't recognise any of these people. I think personally this is just, if I'm going to be cynical, maybe Sony or whoever it is that do Need for Speed have got another game coming up and they're going to ride on the back with this kind of film license approach. I don't know. I'm not happy with it. It's about driving. It might as well be about shopping. I'm going to give it 2.
I don't fancy it either, but then again, you know it's about driving. You could also say that Lord of the Rings is about walking. Let's face it.
Or about having pointy ears and a longbow.
Well, more like walking. If you think about it,
It
Kevin Smith puts it in a beautiful way that it's just 3 films about people walking.
It's like a Ramblers Association
film.
film.
It's kind of right if you think about it. It's just 3 films about people walking, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, I like Kevin Smith. He's
the guy's a genius.
I'd like the guy to watch our podcast.
I'd love to. I would love someday to get on his Smodcast network. That's what I would love. The guy's a fucking genius. I love the guy.
Cool.
Going back to that film, I'm going to give it a 1. Not interested.
Yeah.
No, that's another flush down the toilet for me. I can't be bothered with it.
And I think we just round off that review of that particular film by saying next.
Next, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So next is Non-Stop, which is Liam Neeson.
Oh, I'm going to watch it.
Synopsis: Air Marshal must spring into action aboard an international flight.
Taken on a plane. I'm sorry, that's what it is. Taken on a plane.
Taken on a plane, and also Passenger 57.
Yeah,
Con Air.
Yeah, I want this film. I do. I am a big fan of Liam Neeson. I love the fact that he has made it into an action genre now for the last 5 years. At the age of 60,
I love the way that it is basically the same guy all the time.
Yeah, and it works. And you know what? I never question it.
It's fantastic.
You know what I mean? I generally think if I ever get kidnapped, they won't call the police. You know, my family will call Liam Neeson to come and save me.
It's kind of like when I first saw this trailer kick in, because obviously a lot of time now they back in the day they used to give you the title of the film before the trailer. Now they give you the title of the film after the trailer, so you watch it and you think, what the fuck's this? And then it tells you.
Yeah.
When I first saw this, I thought this is Taken 3.
It does come across that way, doesn't it? And the thing is, I don't care if it isn't. I just want to watch this so
Me
much.
too.
I love it.
I like it as well.
I love Liam Neeson. I think he's absolutely brilliant. The man who was almost James Bond back in the 80s, believe it or not, they offered him.
I can believe it. Yeah.
I think he's fantastic, and I want to see this film. I want to make love to it. I just think it looks brilliant. You know, it's just
you want to whisper sweet nothings into its ear and just gently flick its beam.
Oh, absolutely. I think Liam Neeson's brilliant. I can't say much about him. I just think he's fantastic. You know, I saw this post recently which I thought was hilarious, where somebody put a picture up of Liam Neeson and then did a quote of, this person discovered Anakin Skywalker, this man trained Batman, why the fuck would you take his children?
that makes a lot of sense.
You know, and that's true. I think he's the man's a god.
Yes, it looks really good. I must admit I do like it. In terms of cast members, it's not jumping about and singing much. Julianne Moore, she's been in quite a lot of stuff. She's good.
She's a great actress.
She's always good. She's what you call a mainstay in many films. She's not always like amazing, but she's a solid actress.
Yeah, she never really puts in a shit performance either.
Never.
You know, I've seen her in some real tripey films.
Oh, what's that one with the sci-fi, the abduction? Is it Encounters or something?
Oh, something like that. It's awful.
It's fake, but it's supposed to be found footage type style.
But she's generally bloody good in everything she's in.
Yeah.
So I can watch that.
Linus Roach is in it.
Yeah, Linus Roach. I didn't realise he was in it.
Yeah, Linus Roach. I can't remember what I've seen him in, but he's in
Batman.
I can't remember, but he's been in loads of cool stuff. In fact, if we click on his name, we can have a look. But I recognise that.
Yeah, he was in Batman. He played Bruce's dad.
Oh, of course he did. Yeah, he did. But he's great in that. This is like Taken 3. In fact, it should have been Taken 3 called Non-Stop. It's great. I'm going to give it. I'd probably give it 7.5 to 8. On the basis of that the trailer looks really good. One little twist, and I wonder if this is going to be the twist. Probably not, because I think it's more of a Hollywood film than anything. But if I made this film, I'd put a twist on it in that he's the killer and he's going through a psychosis where he believes that this person's sending messages, but actually he can't find the killer because he's the one.
How do you know if they've not done that?
Could be. But he's gradually picking people off, and at the end of it, he realises that he's going through some kind of breakdown, and that he's actually hunting himself.
It's possible. But then again, who's he shooting at? That would be the next thing, wouldn't it? Unless there's another thing.
It could all be part of a psychosis, and he could believe that somebody's the killer, but actually they're not, and he's killing innocent people on the.
That would be an interesting twist to the story. I hope
it wouldn't. It won't be that though. From a Hollywood perspective, you would never do that because that tells the public that it could happen. And that people might go mental. Yeah. The question is, how did he get a gun on the plane? Unless he's already there to protect it.
He's the air marshal, so they're always armed, aren't they? So,
yeah, that's true.
I love this. I'm going to give it a 9. I'm sorry. Okay. I really, really fancy this film. You know, nobody delivers a cold, staying line like Liam Neeson does.
He's great.
You know, I don't know who you are, and I can tell you that I don't have money. But what I do have is a particular set of skills that I picked up over a very long career. You know that
make people like me a nightmare for people like you. Yeah.
Oh, I want to see this film.
Fantastic. I'm going to give it like an 8, 7.5 to an 8.
I'm sticking to a 9.
But you know, I think it could probably go up given the fact that it's Liam Neeson and he's going to be kicking some shit. So the next one we've got is Pompeii. Now, from a trailer perspective, I had high hopes when I first saw the quick cuts of the bodies with the flakes of ash falling off them. I thought that looked absolutely beautiful. in terms of what I saw after that,
Went downhill.
it kind of let me down a little bit.
Yeah, it went downhill.
You know, the synopsis is a slave turned gladiator finds himself in a race against time to save his true love, who's been betrothed to a corrupt Roman senator. As Mount Vesuvius erupts, he must fight to save his beloved as Pompeii crumbles around him. Interesting concept.
Yeah, I thought that. Interesting story. But we all know that Mount Vesuvius didn't actually blow up. It was done by the Doctor in Doctor Who. That's the real story.
Yeah, but back in the real world, it did, and it also fucked up the city of Herculaneum as well. But they believe that the people of Herculaneum all escaped until they excavated the
site, wasn't it?
They excavated the town and found virtually no one, and thought that the citizens had got away, but actually they hadn't. They'd actually gone down to the harbour and huddled in. Like the not like kind of like cave system, but it was kind of like barns and stuff that lined the harbour, and they were caught in there and died in there.
They should have gone to the mountains; that'd have been safer.
They sadly they didn't escape. And again, people in Pompeii were in the town when it hit, and they basically got coated with
immediately.
Hot ash, and then the bodies died away and rotted, but the gap that was left was a perfect outline of the people, which they then filled with plaster so they could make these statuesque casts of the fallen people.
I've got to say, looking at the trailer, I do think it'll actually be a good fun film.
It looked alright. I mean, I can't remember if I made any notes. I think the only thing I said was that again the lead character is a pretty boy.
I'm not really asking about him,
but I'm not that bothered about that.
It's the supporting cast around him that I like.
Yeah.
Carrie-Anne Moss, I haven't seen her in anything since The Matrix, but she's brilliant. Emily Browning, I absolutely think is a fantastic little actress. She grows more and more. Jared Harris, I fucking love Jared Harris. And for me, the person that will make me go to watch this film more than anybody else, Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
The guy is just a god. I love him. In any film he's ever in, and he's starred in some absolute tripe over the years. His career went through a bit of a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Until he came back and starred as the absolutely brilliantly wonderful Jack Bauer in the 24 series, which I'm happy to say, if you haven't heard, viewers, is coming back this year as a mini-series. But I fucking love Kiefer Sutherland. I actually kind of fancy this film. I don't think it's going to be one of my high on the list, but it really looks really, really good. I like the premise as well, which you mentioned already. I think it's a very
I like it. I like it. To me, it's kind of like the ancient Rome equivalent of Titanic, because it puts two lovers in the setting of a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes you wonder whether or not they're going to get out alive. Now, if spoiler alert here, ladies and gentlemen, but if you know anything about the excavation of Pompeii, there actually is quite a famous cast of two individuals that they refer to as the lovers. And I suspect that these people are not going to make it, and that perhaps it's going to fast wind in time at the end of this film to the excavation. I think probably done in the 18th century, later when they took the cast. I'm not sure exactly when they took the cast, but it was excavated in about 1780 something, I think, to start off with. But I wonder if they're going to fast wind in time by 1,000 or so years to when it's excavated, and you're going to find Milo and Cassia as the lovers. I would love that to happen. Personally, I think they're going to get away.
To be fair, probably not. I mean, the director of this, Paul W.S. Anderson, I believe is the Resident Evil director, isn't he? I believe.
That name definitely rings a bell.
So I'm kind of shocked not to see Mila Jovovich in this, who's his wife. Or is it Jokovic? Forgive me for the way I say that. But
it's Jovovich.
Jovovich.
Yeah, Mila Jovovich.
The thing is about Paul W.S. Anderson, I don't think he's a brilliant director by anybody's standards, but he always delivers a fun film. He's got a way of delivering a film that I always find quite fun. Even the...
Did he do The Fifth Element?
Oh, I'm not sure. I can't really answer that. I do think he'll deliver quite a good film. I actually fancy this. I didn't think I would do when I first started watching the trailer until I started seeing who else was in it. Have I got the right actor? I don't think I've got the right
He's done Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, I'm right then. So it is that young man, but he generally delivers something quite fun. So I fancy this one. It won't be in my high above 6 for me, but I do kind of fancy it. I think this will generally be quite good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, personally, I'm going to give it I reckon I'd give it 7.5 to start off
Yeah.
with on that basis. If it turns out that they die in the film, I'd give it a 9. Not in a bad way, not in the sense that
because
you know I
they're
want them to die because I'm horrible, but I actually want that romanticism to actually link to something that's melancholic and sad and poignant, because people did die in Pompeii. It's a fact. People were killed horribly in Pompeii in the same way they were in Herculaneum, and I think that it would be a lot more resonant and poignant if those lovers died, but they died together, and somehow that's the kind of that was their choice to die together, and they died as a result. They were in an embrace when they died, which means that they didn't suffer as badly as other people who died alone. Maybe that would be more.
That would be brilliant. Could you imagine what the last shot should be? You shouldn't actually see them get hit by the lava either.
I just see that wall of hot pumice and ash just come through, and then it just basically fade out like it's like a veil.
Yeah, I would actually do it with the ash actually making the screen go dark.
Yeah, just coming
just like
across
that.
it. Yeah,
So you already know what's going to happen.
like a veil has been placed
that
against
to me would elevate the film.
Yeah.
So much, because it's not something you use to see.
And then you'd use that as then a transition fade out into modern, in inverted commas, time,
to
as it's being
today's
excavated and the
Absolutely.
lovers are uncovered.
Yeah, lovers cross time, so to speak. That would be absolutely amazing. I agree with that.
I would try and also tie in some of the, and it looks like maybe they've done that given the trailer showing you those people who are coated in ash, the statuesque people. I wonder whether or not they're going to, or I hope that they would introduce characters that are a direct link with the people that were found. So you've got the fisherman, you've got the potter, you've got the man and the child, you've got the dog, you've got the lovers, you've got all these different people, and I would like to see them in their setting when they passed, so that you can go, oh, that's that guy, and you can actually show maybe how those people lived in their last few moments of that disaster. That to me would make it
a bit
more
more emotionally charged.
I don't know if it's going to be that, 'cause it's a Hollywood film, but
I'm not sure. I think he's a very stylised director, Paul W.S. Anderson, so he may deliver it.
I'd like to see that.
He's got a wonderful cast, so that may actually happen.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those ones where I would see it just to see if I was right, just to see if that the director and the producer and the script writers and all the rest of it actually come up with the same ideas that I had about it, or whether or not it may be something better that they've done, and I actually think that they've improved on that.
It'll be a visual spectacle. That's sort of what.
Oh, definitely.
That'll be the first thing I'll say. It'll be a visual spectacle.
To see that Vesuvius just go and all the lava and everything would be incredible. So, next up is RoboCop, the 2014 reboot. Not going to say an awful lot about this, I guess, because podcast one covers that in like 2 hours, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
We've covered that in detail, but
I just popped in for a chit chat and it just went on for a little while.
Absolutely, yeah. My view hasn't changed on this.
My view hasn't really changed that much, although I will say that the latest trailers released after the one we saw did look slightly better. So
right, okay.
I've got a bit more hope for it. I still think it'll suck, but
yeah,
I'm going to give it a go. The only thing that's generally annoying me about this at the minute is if you look at the posters, he's got the original RoboCop Auto 9 pistol,
okay,
which doesn't actually show up in the film. So I don't know why the fuck they're using that, but you already know our views on this. If you're listening to this, you've already heard the first one, so you know my views on that. We'll leave it at that.
Bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Another film that's coming up. This is 2015 apparently. This is coming out, so we are sort of ahead of the game with this one. But it'd be quite interesting to review something a year ahead of when it's going to come out, see how well we did. But Jeff Bridges coming up, Seventh Son in 2015, in February 2015. Synopsis of that is an 18th century adventure story centred on a young Thomas who's apprenticed to the local spook to learn to fight evil spirits. His first great challenge comes when the powerful Mother Malkin escapes her confinement while the spook is away. I'm not really sure about what a local spook is. I wonder whether or not he's some kind of witch finder.
Like an investigator.
It certainly gives me that impression that he's kind of like a witch finder. In fact, I thought when I first saw this trailer, before all the special effects kicked in, I was kind of expecting it to be Matthew Hopkins, Witchfinder General, only a reboot for 2015. I'd like to see a Witchfinder General film because I think it would be amazing to use the character of Matthew Hopkins. I was a bit let down when it turned out this is Seventh Son, which is Jeff Bridges kind of taking the role of the ass kicker who's got a little apprentice and he's obviously training up on how to kill monsters and shit.
You see, I don't think the trailer looks particularly that good, but I'll probably watch it just for the fact it's got Jeff Bridges in.
Do you know what it reminded me of? Solomon Kane.
And I hated that as well.
Really? I thought there was a few visually good things in there. Plague Doctor and stuff.
I like James Purefoy, and I think he's a great actor at times. I mean, he's fantastic in The Following that's on at the minute.
Right.
But I thought that film was shit.
I must admit, I quite enjoyed Solomon Kane because of the darkness of it. I quite like some of the dark characters in it.
I couldn't get into it. Not my type of film. But with this, I do generally like the cast. You know,
Julianne Moore's another Julianne Moore film.
This isn't the Julianne Moore hour, everybody. But you know, she's. Well, we've already mentioned it, she's a great actress. Jeff Bridges I fucking adore. I think he's fantastic. The only other name I really recognise is Andre Trudeau, who just was in The Man of Steel. So, you know, I think it's got a good cast. I'll probably give it a go, but I'm not.
You don't recognise Jason Scott Lee? He was in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Fuck me, somebody actually put him in a film.
Yeah, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And that guy fucking rocked. I'm sorry, but, you know, this has come maybe 20 years too late. But Jason Scott Lee in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, as Bruce Lee, fucking kicked ass.
He was really good in it, absolutely.
Physically, a bit taller and a bit more lanky than Bruce Lee. Facial expressions, spot on. Amazing actor. Awesome physical actor. Thought he was amazing in that. Unusual that he's appeared in this film. I think he was in a film called Rapa Nui in about 2000,
Rapa Nui?
Rapa Nui.
That sounds like a new pot noodle. What's
no, Rapa Nui is the name, is the proper name for the Easter Islands.
Ah, okay.
Like Tahiti is Tahiti Nui, and it's like that. So that he was in that, and I think he did pretty well in that. But he's not really done much.
I would imagine he's directed
TV stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the last film I remember knowing he did was Time Cop 2.
Really? Was that with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No, he wasn't in it. He didn't do the sequel. That was with Jason Scott Lee. That was probably the last film I remember.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I think the cast is quite good.
Yeah, there's not an awful lot of other supporting people that we recognise.
You know, with Jeff Bridges in there.
Jeff Bridges has a reinventing given Tron Legacy. He really did well in Tron Legacy.
Have you seen True Grit?
Yes.
He's phenomenal in it.
Yeah, he's great in that.
You know, Jeff Bridges is brilliant. I love it. For me personally, I think he'll be the only reason for me to watch this film.
Yeah, he's definitely improved with age in the same way that John Travolta has.
Yeah, I agree.
He kind of like, as Pulp Fiction was the kickstart to John Travolta's career as an older man.
There's only one thing that lets John Travolta down. Admit that you're bald! Yeah. Everyone knows it, man! Stop wearing your silly little wigs.
Yeah,
anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's great, John Travolta. Another great film without, detracting too much. But The Taking of Pelham 123.
Oh, it's brilliant.
He's amazing in that.
Don't you think he plays some of the most brilliant, out there characters?
Yeah.
And that nobody else can deliver.
Face Off.
Face Off. I was just about to say Face Off. You know, I love the way he says, there's one bit when he goes, "Well, I'm sorry, sir, it's not been recovered yet." It's not been recovered yet!
Yeah.
Anyway, he shouts and...
yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely
classic.
Brilliant.
One of my favourite bits in that film. Get ready for the big time, baby!
Yeah.
There's some really mental things that
when he's done.
Castor Troy does, isn't there?
Yeah,
when
he's dying.
touching that choral singer's arse while he's singing. Like, yeah!
I mean, let's face it, they're two fucking people in the same film that just play brilliant nutters.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Absolute brilliant psychopaths, those two.
Nick Cage, although he's done a lot of shit, Nick Cage is awesome in that film as a complete fucking mental case.
The thing is, he's brilliant in everything he's in.
Yeah.
You know,
he was shit in The Wicker Man.
I don't think that was his fault. That's the script.
That was just...
He wasn't... You know why, don't you? Because he wasn't allowed to just go out and do what he wanted. That director obviously reeled him in.
Yeah.
You know, he probably showed up on stage like, "I'm Castor Troy!
Yeah.
Woo!"
Yeah.
And then he went, "Nick, shut the fuck up. Read the lines."
Yeah, you actually can't behave like a dickhead in this film.
Exactly.
So...
you know, the main film I think of, when I think of him going completely nuts, if you've seen the second Ghost Rider film...
Oh, no, I haven't. I've seen the first one.
Now, the second Ghost Rider film, it's good. I like it, only because his performance, because he goes absolutely fucking nuts in it, the actual film.
Okay.
But the thing that lets it down is when the Ghost Rider shows up, it's just not entertaining.
Right.
It's really boring. That's what lets it down. But Nicolas Cage, in my opinion, he showed up on the set, and they went, "Here's the script, Nick. I'll wing it." and just chucks
Cool.
it out of the way. That's
Cool.
what it feels like, because he does some of the most weirdest, outlandish things, especially when he's changing into the Ghost
really?
Rider. You know, he's like, ah!
Oh, he's doing lots of
And for people on the podcast, I'm making weird faces, but that's pretty much what he does, and he's brilliant at it.
Cool.
So,
Well, Ghost Rider's supposed to be a head case anyway, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
But getting back to-
very good.
Getting back to
You're on
this,
fire, sir.
like the Ghost Rider.
Yes.
Getting back to Seventh Son, and I think that probably says a lot that we've gone off on a tangent.
It means we're not that bothered.
I think I'd probably give it a 4.5.
I might stretch to a 3. I'm not really that bothered about it. You know, lately, as much as I love Jeff Bridges, he's beginning to star in shite again. R.I.P.D. that he did recently with Ryan Reynolds. I'm sure it's a fun flick, but flopped on its arse.
Wasn't he in an Iron Man as well?
He was. He was in the first Iron Man.
Iron Man first one.
The first one, and I loved him in that as well.
Yeah, he was good in that.
You know, he says the best line in the entire film, which for me kind of, I'm sorry, Downey, but he kind of nails it when he goes, "Hold still, you little prick." you know what I mean? It's brilliant.
Yeah,
and I love it in it. Or when he goes, "All I've asked you to do is miniaturize this," and he goes, "Well, sir, we're having problems with it." And he goes, "Tony Stark built this in a cave with a bunch of scraps." And he goes, "I'm not Tony Stark." You know, I love that. Oh, it's brilliant. I love Jeff Bridges, but this I'll avoid. I think a 3.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Yeah, it's not going to be that great. To me, though, Jeff Bridges will always be Kevin Flynn from the original Tron film.
Yeah,
I loved him in that. I thought he was great.
It's fantastic.
I've got a lot of respect for Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, me too. He's fantastic in the Tron sequel. You know, I love the bit where he walks into the club and everything's jumping in, just sort of leans to the floor, puts his hand out, everything just stops.
Yeah.
It's just fucking excellent.
Yeah, you can tell that he just controls the grid.
Yeah, he is like the Messiah.
Yeah,
it's just brilliant. Awesome. I love him in it.
So, if you're listening, Jeff, which is doubtful, we don't reckon much to Seventh Son, but it doesn't matter, mate. You could basically put an onion on your head, hang some cabbages for earrings, and wear a skirt made out of grass mixed with banana skins, and sing the theme tune to The Wizard of Oz in a high-pitched mouse voice, and we'd still love it.
Oh, I'd love you. I adore you. In fact, you're one of the few actors out there I just want to give a great big hug.
Yeah.
Because I just think you're brilliant.
Yeah, I'm still giving this 4, but, you know, we'll still give you a
hug. Yeah, you know, that's not to say that we detract from other things. It's just that this one's not... I don't think it's you at your best.
No, he's having a bit of a rest now. He's done well, so that's not bad. So we'll move on to the next one, because that one is a bit of a non-starter. I wouldn't go to cinema to see it. The next one is X-Men: Days of Future Past. Interesting concept. X-Men send Wolverine to the past in a desperate effort to change history and prevent an event that results in doom for both humans and mutants. Now, my first observation of this film was that it looked reasonably good, but one thing that did sort of concern me a little bit about the way that this is promoted is the fact that they can go back in time and change things. Why the fuck didn't they do that in the first place? You know, although Michael Fassbender is a great actor, he's playing Magneto. I think that's going to be interesting. I've never liked Wolverine. Always found him a boring superhero character.
Ooh, we're going to disagree on that one.
Bryan Singer directs this, so, you know, again, it's going to be well done.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched X2, which to me is probably one of the few perfect superhero films out there.
It's a good film. It's a good film. There's some great sequences with Storm in X2 as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
really, really good. Halle Berry going mental in X-Men 2, which is great. This film, the whole time travel concept, I've always felt that if you can do time travel, and time travel is possible, then they would have already done it, changed the past, and then X-Men would never exist.
Possibly,
so
but then again, we don't know how they're delivering it, because this is based on an extremely well-known comic.
Yeah, it
graphic
is.
Novel. The only difference was that they don't. It doesn't really time travel. What he actually does is Professor X sends Wolverine's consciousness back
to his younger body,
which is that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
and that's what it says in the trailer.
Yeah,
as well,
I mean, to me personally, this is probably going to be one of the big hitters of 2014 for me.
Yeah.
I really fancy this. I'm a huge fan, apart from X3, which fucking sucked bigger balls than fucking... Oh, let's just say it sucked. I can't go into that, because I'll be here forever.
Isn't that Frogman in X-Men 3, though?
No, Toad was in the first one,
I love the Toad guy.
but X3 was just pathetic. I hated it.
That's the guy with wings in X-Men 3, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and it sucked. The film's shit. I can't stand it. You know, and it obviously shows. And you know, I would say that's Bryan Singer's fault, but then he went off and directed Superman Returns, which also sucks. So really,
Yeah,
You know
what
I mean?
don't start us on that. We talked about that in the
we started
first
getting,
podcast.
Yeah.
Christ.
It's still a future episode. I want to spend time on that film at some point. But
You know,
this
James McAvoy plays
Professor X.
Xavier, doesn't he?
and to be fair, he's a great little actor. I like Professor.
James McAvoy's great. I mean, I think he did Last King of Scotland.
He
didn't
did, and he's brilliant in that.
Oh, fantastic!
You know, and he does look a little bit like Patrick Stewart.
He does. I mean, even the graphics there.
Oh, the poster's fantastic.
It's really well done. They've obviously been very careful in the way that they've selected the actor in James McAvoy, because if anybody's seen any of Patrick Stewart's older performances from the 70s or even before in the 60s, when in black and white TV shows that he used to do, there is a real similarity facially between the two guys.
They cast extremely well with
They've
First
done
Class.
really
When they
well
did
with
First
that.
Class the first time, they cast extremely well. Like you mentioned, Fassbender. That's me. He's going to be James Bond one day. I really do.
I would like to see that. Michael Fassbender is a great actor.
I think Fassbender will be James Bond someday.
Loved him in Inglourious Bastards.
And once again, scene stealing. He's brilliant in it.
Oh,
He's
he's
not even
amazing in that. He's amazing.
He's fantastic. I mean,
That drinking scene, isn't it, in the cellar, in the bar?
Yeah,
the cellar.
absolutely.
Fantastic.
And getting back to X-Men, I mean, just look at the cast of this film.
Let's
Award winner.
Let's have a rundown, mate. You know,
Academy Award winner Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, the brilliant Ian McKellen, Hugh Jackman, who's fantastic, Michael Fassbender, fantastic. I'm not too sure about Peter Evans. I haven't seen much of him, but Ellen Page, fantastic. Peter Dinklage,
who was in Game of Thrones as Tyrion Lannister, and he's a great little actor. He's a fantastic guy.
James McAvoy, Halle Berry, Patrick Stewart, Sean Ashmore. I mean, it just goes on and on.
I mean, look, even fucking Boo Boo Stewart's in it. Who?
But you know, it's just fantastic. And my biggest concern when I heard that they were doing this, especially with Bryan Singer chucking all these characters, is my first thought was overcrowded.
Yeah.
You know, too much going on. But then I thought the same thing about the Avengers when that was.
It might be a bit overkill, but it's not.
But it works.
Yeah.
And I think that
but it's a proper ensemble piece, then,
absolutely,
isn't it?
this film just looks amazing. I love the trailer to it, and I think it will deliver on so many levels. And now they've got Bryan Singer back. You know, the guy who launched this franchise in the first place. X2, which is an absolutely phenomenal superhero flick. I think he'll nail it.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the few directors out there that could actually reel in something like this and make it work.
I think it's going to be interesting as well, given what the storyline says about the fact that it's a fight for survival of the species across 2 time periods, and that you've got the characters from the original X-Men trilogy working with their former selves from X-Men First Class in a battle which is obviously going to be fought on 2 fronts, present and past.
More than likely we'll start off in the future. That's how the film will
I
start.
think it's going to be a mindfuck, really, with all the fast winding forward and stuff that happens in the past is then going to change the battle in the there's going to be a lot of kind of like a Pulp Fiction timeline.
Yeah, exactly, it might bounce around a bit. The one thing
would be amazing.
One thing I'm really looking forward to seeing to this, because I love X-Men, as I'm really looking forward to seeing the Sentinels, which is a big thing in the X-Men universe. I'm really looking forward to seeing them properly on screen, and Wolverine fighting them. And,
right.
You know, I remember watching the 1990s series of X-Men, where they actually do the Sentinels episode.
Oh, okay.
And I want to see a shot of Hugh Jackman quipping in that episode. He jumps up and sees one of these Sentinels and jumps onto its chest and says, "Somebody call for a surgeon," and then fucking rip the shit out of it. I want to see a shot like that with Hugh Jackman. You know, I personally think this film may be one of the top films, blockbuster-wise, of 2014.
It could well be. I mean, it's a smashingly, stompingly massive franchise, isn't it?
It's not just that either. The fact that you've got Singer back, the fact that you've got the original cast back, you've got Jackman in there. I know you said you didn't like Wolverine, but I think he's brilliant as Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman's a good actor, though.
He's just fantastic.
He's great.
You know, my guilty pleasure flick with him, Kate and Leopold.
Oh, right, okay.
Romantic film, but I think it's fucking excellent. Bit of time travelling there, but I love it. Don't know why.
Cool.
You know, so for me, I think this personally would be one of the biggest films of the year. It's going to nail it.
One thing I liked about the trailer is you've got Mystique in it, and there's a shot there with her legs wide open. Now you don't actually see between her legs, but I'm hoping that maybe there'll be another shot just prior to that bit in the trailer where you do. You're not going to see Mystique. You know, you're not going to see the Holy of Holies.
No, we're not going to see any meat curtains. There's
something about Mystique. Wouldn't you love to do Mystique?
To be fair, Jennifer Lawrence, full stop. And she's just an amazingly talented actress.
But Mystique, I mean,
yeah, but you've got to say that
the acrobatic, stretchy, toned. I mean, her arse would be smooth as butter.
So the thing about Mystique is
Blue butter.
She would make the perfect girlfriend, if you think about it.
She could morph into lots of different things.
Any person you feel like. I mean, you know, think about it. You're like,
yeah, but I just want Mystique.
Well, you could have her too. But you might be sitting there one day going, you know what, I really would love to fuck Avril Lavigne or someone like that. And then she turns into
Kylie or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Or I fancy doing J-Lo.
Susanna Reid.
Yeah, Mystique, be J-Lo.
And for our US audiences, Susanna Reid is a news reporter from our BBC. And she's a hot MILF.
So for me personally, I think this will be massive. So I'm going to give this a 9 straight away. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm going to give it an 8.7.
Yeah? I mean, I'm looking forward to this because I thought First Class was brilliant. I loved the first 2 X-Men films.
If we see more of Mystique, though, then I'd give it a 10.
You've now got an Oscar-winning actress there. They're going to use her.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, she will be a big thing. She's a massive draw these days, Jennifer Lawrence. Not just to the fact that she's fucking stunning, but she's just a brilliant actress too.
Yeah, she is good.
So, for me personally, we'll see quite a lot of her, and we'll see the development of her character with her and Magneto as well.
That would be interesting, because there's a bit of a, there's a will they, won't they?
Yeah, they obviously hinted at it, that at some point Magneto stuck his metal willy in her. So that's going to happen. I reckon so anyway. They'll obviously hint at it. Whether it happens in this flick, I don't know.
I hope so. I'd love to see that. The final trailer that we've seen that we're going to review now. In my mind, out of all the ones that we've talked about, it's probably one of the most exciting ones.
I agree.
This is Godzilla, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming out in May 2014 in the US. We all know the story of Godzilla, but the storyline here is a giant radioactive monster called Godzilla, or Gojira in Japanese, appears to wreak destruction on mankind.
It looks amazing.
Visually,
it looks stunning.
Awesome. I love the first-person perspective of the jump when you're falling through the clouds. I really like the visual style of it. It's very dirty and gritty. It's dark. It's like it's happening in the middle of a thunderstorm. There's a lot of smoke and rain and destruction. Not dissimilar to Cloverfield in terms of a monster destroying a city.
And there also hints at the fact in this trailer that Godzilla does go up against another monster.
Cool.
So that to me sounds interesting straight away.
What I was interested about this though, and I'm hoping that it's not what I think it is. Well, actually, I'm not hoping that it's not what I think it is. I am hoping that it is what I thought it was, which was at the very end of this first trailer, and hopefully, if you look on YouTube, you'll see exactly the same trailer that we've seen. At the end is basically a very misty, smoggy atmosphere, clouds whirling around. And within those clouds comes the silhouette of the monster, which then opens its mouth and bellows. Unfortunately, to me, that cry that creature gives is quite high-pitched.
They've changed it slightly.
Oh, they've modified it?
They've modified it. It's definitely the original noise, but they've modified it, you can tell.
Do you think that you mean that they've used the noise that was from the Japanese Godzilla
so.
films?
They used the original noise. It's definitely the original noise.
It's a very screechy, high-pitched noise. Now, I kind of both love that and fucking hate that. what I thought it was is that maybe that's a child Godzilla.
Oh, fuck it. Don't tell me fucking Godzuki's in this. I'm sorry.
No, but what I'd like is that is if anybody, right, you may not have seen this film because you may have missed it, and you know, I'm not exactly a spring chicken, but I could have missed this as well had my dad not been a massive film freak and loved lots of monster movies like from the 1950s. There's a film called, if I remember what it's called, just bear with me. It's not Gwanji because that's about that's about a dinosaur. But there's a film, and I can't remember at the moment what it is. I'll remember in a minute. But basically, at the end of this film, this monster, which is, well, during the film, it's like Godzilla. This monster has been stomping the shit out of a city. And at the end of the film, this monster, which is fucking huge, goes down to the beach and starts calling. And out of the ocean comes its mother, which is fucking massive. And it's right at the end that this happens. But during the film you believe that this monster is actually a fully grown adult, but it's not, it's a baby. And the US Army have been attacking it, trying to kill it, and it calls, and its mother comes out of the ocean.
It's obviously quite pissed.
Which is fucking about 10 times bigger than this other creature. This is from about 1955 or 1960 maybe, this film. And I can't for the life of me remember what it's called. But I'm hoping that maybe the creature that we're seeing in the trailer
is the baby.
And that we think that's Godzilla, but like at the end or at some point, a fucking massive monster is going to come and kick even more shit.
It's an interesting idea. I don't think...
Hopefully with a deeper bellow, because I didn't like the high-pitched squeakiness.
You've got to remember that's probably going to be different versions of it through the film. I mean, it was always quite strange back in the day that Godzilla made exactly the same noise no matter what it was doing. It was like... whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think they've obviously changed it up a little bit. I would love that idea that you've just come up with. I think that would work really well. Whoever wrote that original idea in that movie, if they dropped this into this, it would be absolutely...
I can't remember the name of the film. Yes I can. I've just remembered it. It's called Gorgo. 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 And I'm going to have a look on IMDb now and find Gorgo so that we can see when it was. But my father introduced me to it when I was 1961. So, you know, I was born in 1972, so this film came out 11 years before I was born. But because my dad was born in 1942, he was 19 at the time this film came.
So this is basically a Godzilla rip-off.
Greedy sailors capture a giant lizard off the coast of Ireland and sell it to a London circus. Then its mother shows up. And this is the thing. This is what I want this new Godzilla to be like. I love what you see in this trailer for Godzilla. For the 2014 release, right at the very end, it says Godzilla, but behind it is Gojira, is the Japanese name. And I love the nod to the Japanese origins of this, because I think for so long people have bastardized Godzilla. You know, like we've just talked about Gorgo, it's an adaptation. It lifts from the Japanese origin and makes it into something different. But by doing that, it loses something in that translation. And I think going back to grassroots in the same way that many other films have done that with reboots, and Man of Steel did that really to a certain extent with Krypton. Going back to grassroots and acknowledging origins is what it's all about. Because as soon as you acknowledge an origin and be more, you're more, what's the word? I can't really think of the word. But you are more respectful to those origins. Are more loyal is the word. If you're more loyal to the origin, you're more likely to hit the nail on the head with any reboot, because even if your film is a flop, people will still applaud you for trying to stay loyal to the original meaning of what that film was all about, or that notion is about, because it's obviously any other message that it's got, the more loyal you are to the original, is not going to be so much lost in translation, which is why Dracula got completely butt-fucked. If they made a film that was loyal to the original origins from Bram Stoker, and even the Bram Stoker's Dracula film was good, but still not brilliant, if you stay loyal to the original, then you'll really get the essence of it, and I'm really hoping
something amazing for this Godzilla.
Oh, I personally think they're going to nail it. I really do. I mean, when I wasn't really that bothered about this because I went to the cinema to watch the 1998.
The Matthew Broderick one.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that just coming out, basically bawling like a baby of how bad it was.
Yeah, the creature was pretty well done, but it did come across as kind of like a metallic sort of.
The film was.
It lacked character. The monster lacked character.
Yeah,
really.
it wasn't just that. It was like the performances are rubbish, and the only person I actually quite liked in that film was Jean Reno. The guy from Lee and the Professional.
Well, Jean Reno's always been good. Leon is like
Masterpiece.
an amazing film.
It is. It's a masterpiece.
I love that film. It works on
multiple levels.
It works on a whole bag of onions. It's got so many layers. It's bewildering.
And not only that, it just shows how fantastic Natalie Portman is as an actress.
She was amazing.
How young she was in that.
As Matilda. She
Absolutely.
was incredible.
And so for me, I've got very high hopes for Godzilla. Just
Me
for the
too.
fact that I thought the '98 one was absolutely a big bag of sweaty balls. It was awful. Matthew Broderick was shite in it.
It sort of rode on the back of Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
it was kind of like, let's get a
tried
Jurassic Park character and make it into a superhero film.
Whereas I think Godzilla 2014, to me, leaps off the fucking screen. And I cannot wait for that first shot, which they'll probably recreate, of Godzilla's foot going
Bang.
onto the fucking dock. That first shot when he crosses over a freeway. I think it's going to be amazing. I think the cast in this film is superb. Elizabeth Olsen, to me, is one of the greatest little actresses out there at the minute. She has got such talent on
This
screen.
is Kick-Ass? Is it?
No.
No, not Kick-Ass. What am I thinking of? What's her name?
You were thinking of Chloe Moretz.
Elizabeth Olsen. What have I seen her in?
Well, she's been in Super 8. She was...
Oh, yes, of course.
And she's
yeah.
phenomenal in that. She's obviously grown up quite a bit since then. It's got absolutely fantastic Bryan Cranston, who anyone who watches Breaking Bad will contest to how fantastic this actor is. Rumour has it he may show up as Lex Luthor
Oh, really?
in Batman vs Superman.
Interesting.
That's a rumour. I think that'd be a great cast.
Juliette Binoche has been going for years.
That's forever, personally. Ken Watanabe. I fucking love this actor. I called it back in the day that man was going to win an Oscar for The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
I walked out of that cinema and the first thing I said to my brother was, he's going to get an Oscar. And I was right. The guy is brilliant.
He's amazing. In whatever he does, he's amazing. Ken
He
Watanabe's
is absolutely
a great
brilliant.
guy.
He was fantastic in Inception.
He was awesome in
He's
Inception.
absolutely brilliant. I loved him, obviously, in The Last Samurai. He has a very small part in Batman Begins, but he's absolutely amazing in it. And he doesn't have to do a lot.
He's Ra's al Ghul, isn't he?
He's supposed to be Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Spoilers, but he's absolutely brilliant. I think Godzilla 2014 is the Godzilla I've been waiting for. It's obviously going to be a visual spectacle, but it just has a really cool feel to it. And the reason you thought Kick-Ass was because Aaron Johnson, who's in this, played Kick-Ass.
Right.
So for me, I think this film's going to be phenomenal. I can't say it. I'm going to give this a full 10. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it. What I really love, and I'm hoping that I'm right with this, is the fact that you've got Ken Watanabe in it. You've also got Ken Yamamura. It sounds to me like they're starting to include some Japanese actors. I know that Hollywood's not racist. There's a lot of good representation and inclusion within films, but from a Godzilla perspective, you can't have, or you shouldn't have, Godzilla without a Japanese link.
Absolutely. I mean, did you see the 2004 movie they did? It was like the first Godzilla film they made in years, and using like the original suits.
Oh, really?
It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Cool.
Such a love for that, because it didn't pretend to be anything else. It didn't go the Hollywood, let's give a great massive CGI boost to Godzilla. They used the original suits. It was brilliant.
I don't think they're going to fuck it up. I love the styling of the creature. I know that
we only get a quick glimpse.
You've only get a quick glimpse, but I really like the spines on the back. They've really worked on that.
And not only that, he looks fucking ferocious.
He's like Godzilla's like living rock. He's like a huge 1,000-foot tall golem. You know, not Gollum from Lord of the Rings,
You
but
mean the Jewish
a golem. You know,
golem.
a rock creature. He's like a. He's elemental. He's from the earth. He's ancient. He's a force of nature. And then you've got modernity, technology, fighting against something which is an immovable object, which is nature. And even though Godzilla can be killed, because obviously he's a living creature, he doesn't want to die.
No,
so he's going to fucking
not.
kick
Back,
some shit.
The only really cool thing about this, and another cool thing, should I say, is that for me, it's going to wash the bad taste of Pacific Rim out of my mouth.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
And I fucking hated that flick. I think this will completely wash the slate clean.
Pacific Rim though is like it's like a computer game. There was a computer game called Rampage back in the day, which was an amazing game. Which it had Godzilla, it had King Kong, and you basically climbed up buildings, smashed the windows, grabbed and ate the humans, and fire trucks came along and you could stomp them. It was an amazing game, but you should not turn that into a film.
See, the thing is, I enjoyed the premise of it. I really did. You know, Guillermo del Toro is phenomenal. I love Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro is great when he puts his mind to it. Some of the awesome work that he's done.
Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth, The Orphanage. I mean, everything he does, he's got the magic touch, really.
And then I was actually dragged.
I think he did Mama as well, didn't he?
I'm not sure. I think he might be the producer. I think I was dragged to go see Pacific Rim, and the first time it came on, they basically run it into your head that you have to be perfectly in tune with each other to be able to run one of these great big machine-y type things.
Oh no, he didn't do Mama actually, that's somebody else.
No.
That's Andre Muschietti.
Well, yeah, you have to be...
Although the look and feel is similar to a Guillermo del Toro. Sorry.
That's what they looked at, that's what they went for.
Could be.
You know? And you're supposed to move one of these Jaeger forwards, you're meant to be like perfectly in tune. And then obviously the main cast geezer, Charlie Hunnam, I believe is the actor, is meant to hook up with this other actress, I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
And they've got absolutely no chemistry on screen.
And that's kind of the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're supposed to have that chemistry.
And there's no chemistry between them.
There's your cast list for Pacific.
Absolutely. There's no cast. There's absolutely no chemistry between them. And then the actual fights were boring. And the only person I actually liked in that film is the absolutely fantastic Idris Elba.
Right. Stack of Pentecost.
Absolutely fantastic as Luther. For anybody out there, watch Luther with Idris Elba. He's also in Thor, many other films. The guy's brilliant.
Ron Perlman.
Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. And I love Ron Perlman as well. And you know, that guy could star in a...
Hellboy, the original Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, brilliant.
Fantastic.
Absolutely amazing. You know, so for me, I'm going to ignore Pacific Rim. Hopefully they won't make a sequel. It doesn't deserve one. Godzilla's going to wash the bad taste out of that, I think. I think Godzilla's going to be amazing.
Me too.
I do. I generally think it'll be amazing. It looks like it's gone back to its roots. They've cast really, really well. The actual monster itself looks amazing. The only thing that could make it even better is having Godzuki show up from the old show. You know, meh! And have that thing show up. Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
I just really hope that creature we see on the trailer is its baby.
Yeah, let's hope that's...
And maybe they're going to kill that baby, and that's when Godzilla fucking shows up.
That would be really interesting, wouldn't it?
Especially if they kill it within the first half an hour of the film.
And then you think,
that's done. And they'll be like, "Way, we've killed it," and you're going to think, "What the fuck? They've killed Godzilla?"
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, fucking out of the fucking ocean comes this massive fucking, "You've killed me, kid, you bastard!" And then fucking pummeling
what
time.
What an idea that would be. I mean, I would give one nod to the Godzilla film from '98, where they actually did really well. Is when it had loads of babies and shit like that.
Yes, it did. It was a bit like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and then Godzilla actually shows up.
Yeah,
and they're all dead.
Yeah,
and brilliant bit of I loved it because it does this little nudge of this baby,
and that's a nod to another classic monster film, Dragon Slayer from the 1980s, where the dragon, Vermithrax pejorative, has its children murdered by the Dragon Slayer, and you see the dragon, Vermithrax pejorative, nudging its babies to see if they're still alive, and then you don't see it, but you hear it, this almighty anger, grief cry from the dragon, and it goes absolutely fucking ballistic, burning the shit out of stuff, trying to get to him because it realises that he killed her kids. So it's that I'd love to see that in Godzilla. They kill the baby, but they don't realise it's a baby.
Perhaps that's where they're going with
that
this.
would be awesome,
Yeah.
because it would dupe the audience into thinking, well, what's going to happen now for the rest of the film? They've killed Godzilla, and then I'd just love to see the whole ocean on the horizon start to bubble and rise up, and then all of a sudden this fucking head comes up, and then they realise what they've done. And obviously it's got more babies, because I'd need it to have that.
Yeah, it'd be an amazing idea. Mummy's very angry.
Yeah.
Or Daddy's very angry, whichever way you want.
And then I'd just want to see it absolutely pummel the shit out of the city.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
But I'd also like to see it have its baby killed. Not because I'm sick.
I'm just about to say, James, let's reel that one in a bit.
Not that I'm sick, but I'd like to see that happen. Then to show you what you do if you fuck with nature. And then I'd like to see its mother pummel the fuck out of the city and destroy every little puny little shitty thing we've got to throw at it, and then just go back into the ocean to be with the rest of its babies and disappear. So it doesn't die, it doesn't get killed, it just decides to
That's
fucking
what I'm
leave.
hoping as well. I'm hoping they don't kill Godzilla.
I want it to lay fucking waste to the whole city and,
the thing is,
just leave ash,
yeah,
and then it fucking goes
Godzilla's
back.
Godzilla's actually really intelligent as well.
Yeah.
They've actually kind of shown that in like the original Japanese films.
Yes.
In fact, it was really intelligent. So I would actually like it to arrive to a conclusion where it's like a standoff, where we're like, come on.
It can kill us, and it decides not to, whereas we killed its baby and showed no remorse.
And so it's looking back going, and it's like an understanding, alright, we didn't mean it, you know, there's nothing we could do.
Or maybe we've captured its other child and it's got a couple and it's a trade-off. And it's kind of like, it devastates a city and it wants the other kid back, and it's like, I can either take that child and leave you all as mush, or you can give me my baby back.
You see, if that doesn't happen in this version, that's the sequel right there.
And they give it, because they know if they give it its baby back, it's going to go, but will it come back again?
Well, that's the thing, it's giving you a choice. And that's, could you imagine that? I would just love to have that look in an eye of like to say, your fucking move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get to that
but
point.
But really, it looks right at you, and you can see that connection.
It's concentrating on that one person.
You can see that connection where he's got like this. Maybe this general guy's got the order to drop the nuke on it or something, and he's got his hand up like he's going to give the order, and then he looks right at it, and it's kind of like it's looking at him like, if you do this, I will destroy every fucking last thing. And then you see his hand just
go down,
and maybe he just turns around and walks away, and then it does the same, and they basically walk off back to back.
You know what? I would pay to see that film. If they don't do it on this one, let's see it in a sequel. You know?
At the end of Gorgo, mother and baby walk off back into the ocean together, and that's fucking awesome.
And that's
I'd love to see that.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Because that would be a nod to Gorgo as well, as a nice little nod towards these monster flicks.
Viewers, tell us what you think of this idea. I think personally that's amazing. That would really, really work. Different, something you haven't seen before in all these years. Some of you will be laughing, going, "Oh, fuck it off, it wouldn't do that." But yes, it would. Imagine the emotional connection you'd actually have to that.
It's like what we do with animals now, releasing them into the wild with their kids and stuff like that.
But in this case, Godzilla's releasing us back into the wild, if you think about it.
Or maybe it could start off with an environmentally friendly storyline, in the sense that they find this thing that's beached and they help it, but in helping it, Godzilla doesn't realise what they're doing, and it comes to reclaim its child.
So who knows which way they're going to go? All I know is it just looks amazing.
Yeah, I fucking love that. I think you're right. We need to have that intelligence to Godzilla, though, rather than just a rampaging dumb monster.
Yeah, we don't just want the rampaging monster. A bit of intelligence in there, because I know they did it back in the originals, back in the day. So if they could at least bring that in, and I think they will, because the director of this, Gareth Edwards, I think he's done a phenomenal job just from that trailer. And it's not like me to get instantly into a film just from a trailer.
Yeah, me neither. I think
this film just makes me whip my dick out. It looks amazing. I am making so many spunk piles everywhere. I've got to see it, and I've got to see it now. I think it'll be probably the biggest film of the year. And if it doesn't become the biggest film of the year, then the people that don't go see it, you're all fucking idiots.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get fucked. I hope that what we've seen on that trailer,
Absolutely.
I hope is going to be amazing. It looks like Dread. The way that it's been filmed, it's a work of art. The way that it's been
absolutely.
filmed.
Edwards has done a brilliant job with it.
I love the painting in it, the darks and the smog and the brooding cityscape, and the fact that it's kind of a. At the moment on the trailer, it's a hidden menace, and then it calls out. You know, is that a battle cry, or is that anger? Is that grief?
Or
you don't quite know.
Yeah. And the thing is, the one thing that this trailer does show you, some shit's gone down. This is not like the original Godzilla film where he sort of breaks a few buildings, and the 98 one. Where he breaks a few buildings. This Godzilla looks like it wipes the fuck out of that city.
I kind of would like, there's a few routes that this can take. This could take the route with the case of maybe we've either pissed it off or we're destroying its habitat and it's got nowhere to go, so we disturb it.
What's the betting they discover it because they're drilling for oil and
Could
they release it?
Fracking or something.
Yeah, they're down there drilling, they release it. What's the
Or awaken it, it's in some kind of slumber.
It's probably
and
some kind of sleepy slumber, and it gets disturbed, and it's like, what the fuck?
What I love about Godzilla, though, is that he's a force, or she, it could be she, is a force of nature. And I quite like the idea of the fact that it has a habitat which we encroach on. So it's kind of like we brought that on ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of the route they'll probably go with this. It's obviously going to stick close to the original
I hope
story,
so, yeah.
just with extremely well updated effects.
You see, they've said that it's radioactive because that obviously it was, and we've inadvertently created Godzilla.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why it was done in Japan, because of Hiroshima and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was a direct nod towards that.
Yeah.
So 10 for me, James.
Yeah.
10.
I'm going to say 9.8 purely because I'm not sure about the baby element and stuff, because I don't know if they're going to do that.
If they're not, I'm still going to see it. 10 for me. This is going to be amazing. I can tell it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fucking great film. And in terms of the list of films that we were going to review,
we've come to the end.
We've come to the end of this podcast.
Absolutely. I can't wait for the next one. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So join us again. We'll be recording podcast number 3 shortly. We're not quite sure what that will take the form of. It'll probably, I guess, be potentially a post-viewing review of RoboCop.
Yeah, possibly.
Or maybe even with some other film comes out for that's penciled in for late 2014 or early 2015, and we decide to do another review. But either way, we're going to try and do these at least once a month, so or more regularly if we can, and they'll be of a similar length. So you'll get value for money, even though you don't even have to pay, which is even better. And you'll get a good meaty podcast.
I think so. I mean, let's face it, this is damn good fun. In fact, while we're at it, why don't you post the question to us what you'd like us to review?
Absolutely.
Do that for us, and we will go all out on whatever you ask us. So
definitely. Yeah, and also if you can download the YouTube video, we're happy for you to steal the video off YouTube, convert it into an MP3, download that onto your iPlayer or your MP3 player, and listen to us in your car or on your portable device, on your mobile. We don't care as long as you listen to this, and that you enjoy it, and that it prompts some discussion on our channel. So with that, I've been James.
I've been Adie.
And thanks again for listening to another Grumpy Guide. So we'll see you later. Thank you.
You're being grumpy.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.